Ladies and gentlemen, it was destiny. You guys are looking at the photo of two goats, two guys that will transform LSU football forever. It's Jayden Daniels to your left. It is Lane Kiffin to your right. And if you're listening via iTunes or Spotify, guess what? I will picture the photo for you. At this juncture, Jayden Daniels had just won the Heisman Trophy, and Lane Kiffin had happened to bump into him at a recruiting trip many a moons ago. And little did we know, after Jayden Daniels would leave, the LSU offense would turn into what it is today. Until this man to your right, this man who will obviously transform LSU football into what it needs to be, the first offensive wonder kid to ever come to LSU. And notice I said kid, because even though he's 50, it doesn't matter. This man is going to coach for a very long time. Maybe not at LSU, because I keep hearing this. Well, what's going to happen if he leaves you in a few years? Well, if he's leaving us for the NFL, guess what? That probably means he won pretty big here at LSU. The simple truth is you should be excited, baby. Let's freaking go. LSU fans, I need a little bit more energy in the chat, baby. I need a little bit more energy in the chat. Let's go. I cannot believe LSU found a way to get this done. I literally cannot believe it, but they did. And we owe a lot of people a lot of credit for getting to where we are today. From Verge Osbury to the LSU Brain Trust to the Board of Trustees to Governor Landry. I've heard Governor Landry's role in this was something. And look, I don't care all the circus, all the fanfare, all the mumbo jumbo. We got our guy. We got our guy. We got our mother effing guy. And for weeks, I just kept hearing over and over that Lane Kiffin and LSU is real. In just a few moments, you're going to hear from the man who predicted that with pretty bold confidence a month ago that Lane Kiffin would be the next coach at LSU. Cooper Petagna will join us. I just can't believe it. I cannot believe my favorite coach in college football is coming to BR. And I really do mean it. He is my favorite coach. I have always admired his offense. I've always admired his candor. And yes, there are some downfalls. There are things he has never really handled the absolute best. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We are all flawed. And up to this point, to where we are as an offense, an absolute eyesore week after week, month after month, that offensive lineman could barely keep his footing. Guess what Lane Kiffin's going to do? He's going to fix that. He is going to turn Caden Durham and Harlan Berry into the next 1-2 duo like we used to have with Darius Geis and Leonard Fournette. Lane Kiffin is coming to Baton Rouge. I say he's coming to Baton Rouge. He's here right now, baby. And he's going to build an awesome staff. He's going to recruit elite classes. And he is going to make every Ole Miss fan that talked ill after he turned Ole Miss actually relevant for the first time in eons. He is going to make all of them eat their words, because I'm going to be honest, when Ole Miss goes 0-1 in the Vaught in the first round of the playoff, they are going to wish they had Joey Freshwater on the sideline. Joey Freshwater, my ass, he's Joey Swampwater right now, because look, he is in the bayou and he is ready to set this bitch off in Baton Rouge. Let's go. Let's go. It's time for you to lock in, PHL Nation. It's time for you to lock in. Woo! I'm ready. I'm so ready. Can't believe it. Can't freaking believe it. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about the actual news of the day. We're going to go through the Marty Smith big interview from earlier today with Lane Kiffin, some of the things he has said, some of the things he has done. We're going to talk about the divorce from Ole Miss. And I'm going to tell you a few things that I have learned over the past couple of weeks following this story. Now, what's going to happen to the staff? Where are we going in terms of that? Well, the offensive staff is going to feature Charlie Weiss Jr., and that was the big hire that we were trying to figure out, if Charlie Weiss is actually coming with Lane Kiffin to Baton Rouge. Yeah, there are other receiver coaches that we'll discuss, and I do think we'll have more clarity on that tomorrow. But obviously, Charlie Weiss Jr. has been his right-hand man. He has been with Lane Kiffin at multiple stops now, going back to Florida Atlantic. He, like Lane Kiffin, is the son of a coaching legend. And I really like Charlie Weiss Jr. I love their operations. One thing that is a little bit different from Lane Kiffin to where we were with this LSU offense is their communication is really good. I know a lot of you are so sick and tired of LSU not being able to communicate plays, having to take bad timeouts when you didn't even need to take those bad timeouts. Lane Kiffin does not do those very things. Their fourth down decision making is very aggressive, which is what we want here in Baton Rouge. We want to drop our you-know-what on the opponents. And guess what? They're going to bring that hopefully to LSU, and hopefully they'll rebuild this offensive line and run schemes that benefit the offensive linemen that we do have. So, there's questions. Is Frank Wilson going to stay? Is Austin Thomas going to stay? I do have some good news if you're a big Austin Thomas fan. I think you should feel pretty good about that. Ben Glasscock, his general manager at Ole Miss, is probably going to say, we'll talk more about that, but you guys come here for analysis. You guys don't come here for news. A lot of you get news on your phone immediately, but obviously the biggest news of the day, Lane Kiffin is coming to LSU. But this is the big thing. Why on earth is it worth it? What is the risk in all of this? There's a big risk. You're obviously giving him a pretty big contract like you did the last coach when you obviously have to eat your words as far as that is concerned from a few weeks ago regarding LSU. So, look, I am of the belief that LSU is going to do fine with this hire. There is a risk involving that. There's always a risk when you're dealing with Lane Kiffin, and Ole Miss fans are going to sing this from the high heavens. If you thought Notre Dame fans were bad when Brian Kelly came over, Ole Miss fans have not an axe to grind. They have a hatchet to grind. They have a Krillin Destructo disc to grind with us. That's how powerful it's going to be from Ole Miss fans that Lane Kiffin is not really that great of a coach. And it was all Charlie Weiss. It was all our NIL, Lane Kiffin's late. You're going to hear everything regarding Lane Kiffin. I just don't believe that. I really do believe he is going to be very successful here in Baton Rouge. But like with any coaching hire, you don't know. You don't know. So, from the get-go, I felt mostly positive about LSU. Everyone that I spoke to that I know and I trust with information, including our guests coming up here in a few minutes, I've been on LSU leading this process, but my gut, it could have just been my fandom for this man. That it could just be that I just didn't want to get let down in this process. But lucky enough, it did happen. And lucky enough, some of the best years of LSU football are ahead. And the reason I started this whole thing off with that Jaden Daniels and Lane Kiffin photo is that really the only time that our offenses outperformed a Lane Kiffin coached Ole Miss offense is when we had number 5 at quarterback. Outside of that Super Saiyan that now plays for the Washington Commanders, we are in a position where Lane Kiffin's offenses were way better than us. And in particular, when we talk about the history of LSU football, yeah, there's 1,000 different things you could point to as far as why we have been so successful. But what are we known for? Well, we used to be known for running the football. And when it comes to running the football, nobody has done more than Lane Kiffin when it comes to rushing efficiency, especially when you consider some of the offensive line talent that he has had compared to some of the other powerful rushing offenses like Missouri and then, of course, Ohio State and whoever else you want to mention. So for me, this is a big, big, big day. If you're an LSU football fan, you just treated Ole Miss like their little brother. Okay. So for me, from an analyst standpoint, I'm giving this hire an A+. I really do believe Lane Kiffin will lead us to college football playoffs. Verge Osbury said at the introductory press conference that LSU should be in the college football playoff every season. And I am going to hold Lane Kiffin to a standard here tonight. We, at the very least, need to make 2 playoffs in the next 3 seasons. I think that is a fair standard with the 12-team college football playoff and the hype that Lane is bringing to Baton Rouge. Now, what are some other things? Well, I'm hearing some good things as far as Blake Baker being the next defensive coordinator for LSU. We will see what happens with that. Obviously, I want Blake to stay. I've talked about some of the discomfort I've had with Blake Baker this year as the defensive coordinator. We all saw the coverage bust at the end of the Oklahoma game that made us feel very heebie-jeebie. We were right in position to win that game, and then there you go. Their best player running wide open for a touchdown. We've had a little too much of those easy touchdowns this season where no one's really around the receiver. But whatever the case may be, obviously Blake Baker has been a lot better than our previous defensive coordinators, and I still think he's going to fit really well with Lane Kiffin. So I hope they retain Blake Baker. I hope the defensive staff mostly remains intact. It is important to bring up, though, that Lane Kiffin does have Chris Kiffin coming over, and he obviously coaches the linebacker. So there's going to be some moving and shaking involving all of that. I reached out to a few sources close to Ed Orgeron. Is there any steam regarding that? We will see in the coming weeks. But whatever it may be, you should be cracking a White Claw. You should be cracking open a bourbon. You should be doing whatever you want. Cracking open a bourbon. Pouring yourself a bourbon. Whatever you want to do to celebrate this, celebrate it. Because something else is I did not want LSU to go through a secondary search after Lane Kiffin. Because, look, it was not a great hiring cycle. Not a lot of teams feel really great about their hires, maybe outside of LSU and maybe Florida with John Summerall. All right. A lot of other teams, I like what Virginia Tech did, but man, oh man, oh man. There are some teams in the SEC that had some very controversial moves. We'll talk about that a little bit later today. Okay. So, look, we're going to get to as many super chats. We're going to get to as many comments. It's going to be one of the biggest shows in PHL history. We have streamed 15 hours basically over the past week. Actually, I think I'm underestimating that. Probably 20 to 25 hours here on this search. Okay. Let's go to Fred's Bryn. $9.99 goes towards the wax you will be purchasing. Wax that chest. I've never seen so many male human beings really concerned about the well-being of my chest. But there you go. If you want to donate to the, you know what, we'll talk about that. Basically on another show who will not be named, he said, if Lane Kiffin comes to LSU, are you going to wax your chest? Or would you wax your chest? Yeah, we're probably going to do something, raise some money for some charity. So we'll see what happens. Let's go to James Sales. Let's go. This is an incredible hire. Carter Lane has a chance to build a rival to Kirby Smart. Let's go to Drew Boudreaux. Let's go. How good of a developer is Lane Kiffin? He's a very good developer. I will say, though, the defensive coordinator hire is going to be so big. And I do think if we do retain Blake Baker, that does lend itself to quite a few guys staying for LSU, some key ones, including number 40, who would probably wear number 18 next season. So really excited about the proposition and the likelihood of that. I hope Whit Weeks comes back because we could desperately use him, especially with how well he played in the Oklahoma game. All right. So share the stream, like it, 5-star review, all that good stuff. We want to thank our friends once again at Laporte Therapy, LaporteTherapy.com. They have been sponsoring our coverage of this search from start to finish. And then, of course, Zion Imaging, XYANimaging.com, and Fortified Gulf Coast. Save up to 37% on your homeowner's insurance with our friends at FortifiedGulfCoast.com. Okay, so let's go. Do I think Lane will keep Atkins to coach the offensive line? I doubt it. I think he's going to bring in his own guy. I want to talk about this as far as James is concerned. Can we build a rival to Kirby Smart? Yeah, it's going to be really hard to build what Kirby has built at Georgia. Because we're going to build something better, baby. I do think Kirby's the best coach. I still think he will remain the best coach until somebody knocks him off that perch. I think Georgia has a really good shot of winning the national championship this season. But at the same time, I do think Lane has a chance to do the same if we can keep up in terms of fundraising, NIL, roster management, and all of those different things. Okay. There are quite a few. I say quite a few. There's a couple of Lane's old staffers that are on this current iteration of LSU. Obviously, Austin Thomas is one. Kelvin Bolden is another who came over from Ole Miss to LSU this past year. So there are some familiar faces here in Baton Rouge for Lane Kiffin. And then the big name that's going to be just crucial for Lane Kiffin is going to be Frank Wilson. Does he want to keep Frank around? I've been told by two players that Frank is absolutely massive in terms of the future of LSU football. One of which said they will stay if Frank stays. So we'll see. Say goodnight to the bad guy. There you go. To Jordan Haddad. Now, let's talk about Ole Miss. And let's talk about Lane Kiffin's statement from earlier today. All right. So we'll play some of the Marty interview a little bit later. But what I want to do is go to Lane Kiffin's statement that he released. And obviously, this is carefully crafted, probably looked over by his lawyers and all of that. And here we go. So Lane Kiffin, what he said to the powerful people of the Ole Miss Rebels and everybody on Twitter that follows them. After a lot of prayer and time spent with the family, I made the difficult decision to accept the head coaching position at LSU. All right. So if you're listening to the SEC show, obviously we're going over this again. I was hoping to complete a historic 6-season run with this year's team by leading Ole Miss through the playoffs, capitalizing on the team's incredible success and their commitment to finish strong, and investing everything into a playoff run with guardrails in place to protect the program in any areas of concern. My request to do so was denied by athletic director Keith Carter, despite the team also asking him to allow him to keep coaching them so they could better maintain their high level of performance. Unfortunately, that means Friday's Egg Bowl was my last game coaching the Rebels. All right. So this is the topic du jour. Why should Lane Kiffin be allowed to coach his team in the college football playoff? Is there a reason? Should Lane have even been given a conversation regarding this? Should Keith Carter have already kicked his ass out before the Egg Bowl? I'm not just saying this just because my coach said this. Because if I was at Florida, I would want John Summerall to finish out his season at Tulane. And guess what, y'all? Guess what? The world's not going to burn down because John Summerall is getting the opportunity to coach his team at Tulane in the college football playoff. And I understand, Carter, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. John Summerall, it's not the same. Yeah, it is. It's a guy being allowed to finish what he started. Now, it's not the same exact thing because it's two separate sets of people, and it is LSU going up against a rival in Ole Miss who they do have to play every season. I understand those factors, but damn it, don't give me this BS that you truly do care about the guys in that locker room, Keith Carter, if you're not going to allow the man who coached not only this team, but the accumulation of this team, the guy that turned Oxford into a relevant college football program, a guy that obviously won more games during a 6-year period than anyone at Ole Miss, a guy who at Ole Miss, by the way, this isn't just anyone's Ole Miss. This is the most competitive SEC we've ever had, with Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference. He has won 10-plus games in 4 of the last 5 seasons. Ole Miss, 11-1. All right. Is Lane Kiffin a good coach? Let me tell you this. Let's just go through this together because we got a bunch of new viewers coming in here. This season, Ole Miss lost their best defensive tackle, lost their 2 best defensive ends, lost their best off-ball linebacker, lost their best corner, lost their best quarterback, lost their best wide receiver, and they were 2 wins better than what they were last year. Now, it's true. A lot of it is the schedule. The schedule has been favorable for Ole Miss this season. I will give you that. But they were still 2 wins better than what they were last season. And I would be the first to tell you, because this isn't a new talking point for all the new Ole Miss people that might be watching this right now, you still should have made the playoff last season because by the eye test and by the results, you were still, to me, the 3rd best team in college football. But you lost 3 close games and you blew everyone else out, and Lane deserves a good bit of the blame for not getting all over the hump. I would be the first to tell you that. But at the same time, he's the reason that the money was raised for last year's roster. He's the reason that you did blow out everybody that you actually did beat last season. It's not his fault he had to deal with some of the worst injuries we've ever seen to a college football roster, which is what Ole Miss had to deal with. He got unlucky. This guy is a special football coach. To do what he has done with this year's team, 2 wins better in the regular season, despite losing everything that I told you, despite starting Sage Ryan despite starting quite a few different journeymen that were never really all that great. He made it work. He made it work. And this is it. When you hear people say, well, Lane Kiffin has never won anything big. He's never won anything big. Why is the highest paid coach someone that has never won the SEC, has never been to a college football playoff until now, hasn't won anything at the NFL? You want to know why? Because he needs to be at a job in order to be able to do that. And guess what? LSU is one of the few jobs where you can actually win something of relevance. So I don't care. I keep hearing these stupid old arguments going against Lane. You want to know why? That people hate this move from Lane Kiffin is that they hate greatness. They hate forward mobility. They hate the fact that little old Ole Miss, who is a little brother when it comes to the Magnolia Bowl rivalry, is losing their coach to a powerful program that can actually give him what he needs to reach the heights that he wants to reach. And the college football national media does not like it when the little guy gets stomped on. And look, I do feel a little bit of sympathy for Ole Miss fans that this happened to you. But guess what? That's why you're Ole Miss and we're LSU. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Okay? Let's go to Pegasus. Ole Miss would be a laughingstock if they let Lane coach the playoff. Well, guess what? You also could be this thing called a national champion, which is something that probably won't happen with a first-time head coach in Pete Golding. Even though that was the move I probably would have made as well, which is, especially with Summerall off the board, I probably would have gone in the direction of Pete Golding as well, and that's what they decided to do. I do think they made the right decision to go with Golding instead of Joe Judge, okay? So I want to stop yapping. There's 1,000 other things I want to go to as far as this hire is concerned. Let's go to Officer M. Cribb, West Virginia fan here. Do you think he will succeed at the premier level? He failed at USC. Yeah, he was super young then and probably not balanced. Rich Rod left for Michigan. People like them are grinders, are developers. Is LSU too big for him to handle? And that's a valid concern, okay? So you look at where he was in Ole Miss. There's just not as much pressure to win there. People there are happy with whatever you give them. And look, all of that to say, and all that rant I just gave a minute ago, it is perfectly fair for Ole Miss fans to feel opposite to this. It's perfectly fine if you want to sell gardening utensil t-shirts with Lane's face on it. Not what I would do, but that's what they're doing. It's perfectly fine if you want to feel that way. It's perfectly fine if you want to flip them off at the airport. But he made you relevant. It was him. He did it. Okay? He did it. So I get it. Totally get it. Now, I do understand that that's not a premier job, and he was at a very premier job in USC many a moons ago, especially back when he was at USC. That was the job in college football, and he failed. And he was at Tennessee for a season. That's another job where they're expecting national championships when they should just expect the college football playoff every now and then. Yeah, you do worry about that. But he was also the offensive coordinator for the premier program in all college football. Okay. So before we get to our first guest and our first break here today, I want to thank a few people. Nick Saban and Pete Carroll. I never thought I would say this, but it is confirmed now that Saban, and we already knew Saban said what he said about LSU, but Lane Kiffin himself said, hey, it is true. Pete Carroll also advised me to go to LSU. Okay. I want to thank Verge Osberry for getting this over the finish line. I want to thank the governor and President Wade Roos. Jeff Landry and Wade did some really good things to get this thing all lined up. I want to thank our board and all those different people because boy, oh boy, it was a train wreck when we were actually starting all of this. Okay. And I am very, very happy we are where we are right now. Okay. Kiffin derangement syndrome. It's a real thing. Okay. Now, coming up next, we'll talk to the man who a month ago, almost to the day, predicted Lane Kiffin at LSU.
Power Hour Network listeners and viewers, you might be consuming this content with that crick in your back that you've been trying to get rid of for so long. Take this as your sign today to book your appointment with LabourdTherapy.com. In the Lafayette region, there is no one that you will find that cares more about any different type of pain that you might have than the team at LabourdTherapy.com. Book today. Once again, that's LABORDE therapy.com, or you can visit one of their 5 locations all throughout the Lafayette region.
Do you have somebody that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's Lane. Fairly confident too. I give it like a 6 out of 10. You frozen or you're not responding?
How did you know?
That's a great video, buddy.
Boy, oh boy, it's making the rounds. Cooper knew. What led you to that opinion?
I'll say this. I'm fortunate enough to have worked in the space as long as I did, almost 10 years, like 7-8 years on the personnel side. And then obviously since then on the media side. During that time, you build relationships with people that you come up with, right? Like when I started, I was an intern at Alabama. By the end of it, I was the director of recruiting at Oregon. There's some people that you coincide with on the journey, whether it's on the personnel, the coaching side, the agency side, whatever it is, that you make acquaintances with, that you then grow. And then all of a sudden you look up a decade later and they're in the mix, right? And I mean, this is a unique situation. I'm from Louisiana. I went to LSU, and quite honestly, it wasn't like I knew at the time. I gave you a 6 out of 10, and that's where I was. And the 40% was what you saw play out over the last 48 hours. That was it. And that was always the biggest kind of obstacle, was how would you depart Oxford and save face on the reputation that you have worked so hard to rebuild, and rebuilding your image over the last handful of years, 6 years since you've been there at Ole Miss. And in 48 hours, all that goodwill that he had built up with that fan base, poof, it's gone, right? And now it's on to Baton Rouge.
What do you think his next move should be?
It's a great question. I mean, it sounds like the continuity that he'll bring over from the front office side is there with Billy Glasscock. That's really important. He has Austin Thomas there. There have been some, I would say, lingering questions whether or not that's going to be a marriage that's going to continue. But as we've seen tonight, it looks like the Pope coming off the balcony, and newly elected Pope Austin Thomas there present. So it looks like they've been able to kind of squash whatever's next. I mean, I think the biggest thing for him, and which is really important, him already meeting with Lamar Brown, the number 1 player in the country, or has the argument to be one of the top players in the country. That's a huge deal. That's a critical thing. So I think, one, he knows the importance of the state and the recruiting element. And we can talk about why he left, why didn't he go. Nick Saban said it on College Game Day. He said if he's leaving for LSU, it's because he believes that he can recruit better talent there. And I think a lot of people just glossed over that and said, oh, that's Nick Saban. He's in his corner. Obviously, those two have been conversing about this process. Like, that's it. I don't think a lot of people understand the job that he has done at Ole Miss is so difficult to do that year in and year out. And he had a couple breaks go his way. Trinidad Chambliss, like, you make your own luck. They went out. They got him from Ferris State. I don't think they had any idea how good he would be. Austin Simmons was the guy that they had built this thing around for this season. And Pete Golding was able to do a tremendous job, really kind of, patching up that defense with the type of mercenaries that you were talking about, especially on the back end. So, he's done a phenomenal coaching job. But, I would say first order of business, hit the ground running, understand who you are from a talent acquisition standpoint, understand the difference between LSU and Ole Miss. the reasons why you left. Go take advantage of that geographically and from the resource investment standpoint. And he's got no time to waste, man, because this is not a roster, even like Auburn, even like Florida, that's built to win next year. They're not.
No.
You got to go get a quarterback, and you got to go do the things that you've done at Ole Miss. You know, you called yourself the Portal King. Now you got to go be the Portal King. You got to go back that up. So I think that's really the biggest thing for him. He's going to have to flip a roster, and those key pieces, the DJ Pickett, the Don McKinley, the Harlem Berries, those are the first guys you're meeting with and making sure that they're staying here.
So per Matt Zenitz, who is a coworker of yours, Charlie Weiss Jr., offensive coordinator, George McDonald, wide receiver coach, strength and conditioning coach, Nick Savage, and general manager, Billy Glasscock. I've heard of, I'm guessing Chris Kiffin's going to come on the defensive side. LSU should push Lane, and Lane should heavily consider keeping Blake Baker. Do you agree with that or not?
I would. Yeah. And I heard your piece on what you were saying about the Oklahoma game. I just think that's part of kind of like Blake Baker's ID. If you're a Saints fan and you remember going all the way back to 2009 when they won the Super Bowl, it's kind of what it was with Greg Williams, right, as a defense coordinator. Opportunistic defense. They forced 3 turnovers, an average offense, you win that game, right? They put him in position time after time versus a very explosive John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle offense. So I think with Blake Baker, the other thing that you take into consideration, he's going into year 3 of a roster build too. And this year it was so much better. You had guys like AJ Halsey, Mansour Lane, going to be a first-round draft pick. TaMarcus Cooley, hopefully they get back. DJ Pickett, his growth, his development, that's big. PJ Woodland. Like for Lane Kiffin, he'd take that probably 5 out of 6 years at Ole Miss. So outside of 2 years ago in that defense that you were kind of talking about. But I think the biggest thing is the front seven. And I think that's a huge piece as well. You got to get Whit Weeks back in the mix. Can you find a way to upgrade just with the fit of kind of like a Harold Perkins really kind of being a guy that they've been trying to figure out over the next 2 years? So I'd like to see them continue to be aggressive, especially in the trenches. They got to get back to getting LSU back to where that is the strength of their program, is that defensive line. And I think they're doing that with guys like Dominic McKinley, the Anderson kid, who they obviously love a lot as well. But that's got to be the teeth of who they are, man. So I think, Blake Baker, bringing him back, his ID. And guess what? Blake Baker looks a lot better when you're averaging 31 points a game, right? It's a completely different story there.
The tree is back.
The tree is back. Yeah, the people love the tree. I was talking to my mother-in-law about it. She's not psyched about the tree. The tree is back.
Wait, why did you like the tree? Why did
She's like, get that? She's like, people aren't supposed to see that tree. And
no.
People love the tree. There's somebody on here that said, hey, 500 more viewers because the tree's back. I love the tree.
Yeah. Velasco says that.
Shout out Velasco.
Yeah, no. I love the tree. It's got the Afro kind of feel to it. I love
vibes tree.
Yeah. Your thoughts on Lane's offensive staff? So how important is Charlie Weiss, in your opinion, to Lane's operation?
I think from a level of continuity standpoint, it's critical. Because everywhere you go, that's something that you think about. I'll try to make the comparison, but when I went from one job to another, there was always 1 or 2 guys that were so critical to the operation, just in terms of their functionality. And they were a little bit of an extension of you and your identity and who you want it to be and what you want it to ruminate throughout your department. So imagine that on a lot bigger scale offensively. Charlie Weiss Jr. is part of Lane Kiffin's fiber, DNA as an offensive play caller. This guy's been with him for a very long time. Going to go all the way back to Florida Atlantic. And you think about that for Lane Kiffin from a CEO standpoint, and that's really not who he is, but he's done a better job of developing in that area later on in his career, now at 48, 49 years old, right? This is something where now he can get Charlie Weiss Jr. And in terms of the installation, the playbook, the day-to-day, the monotonous parts of installing an offense and what that kind of looks like, and then understanding the personnel, what might fit, what might not fit, right? Who are the guys that they want to get involved? Guys like Trey'Dez Green, can you imagine him being like a Daquan Wright in the offense, right? Like
Yes.
what does that look like? That is going to be the onus of a guy like Charlie Weiss Jr., which then allows Lane to really kind of focus on the other aspects of the program that I talked about. What are the things that need to be addressed? What does the cap situation look like with the current roster? Billy Glasscock, the GM from Ole Miss, coming over as well, that level of continuity. Even Austin Thomas working with him at Ole Miss and having him in the building at LSU. It's like at that point, you don't really care how you feel about each other. It's like we have some level of continuity and we're under the gun here and we have some synergy, and we have signing day on December 3rd. We have transfer portal opens up on January 2nd. Here are the guys that we feel like we need to retain. How does that mesh up with the new vision? I think that level of continuity is really, really important. And you have guys in the building. You mentioned Bolden, you mentioned Frank Wilson, you mentioned Austin Thomas. Like that synergy is really important. There are a couple other guys in the personnel department as well. So Lane Kiffin's not going into a situation where he's saying, all right, it's all new. There's actually some crossover. And like I said, regardless how you feel about the individual emotionally, if you're Lane Kiffin, that synergetic component over the next 3 to 4 months is absolutely critical, especially in the next couple of weeks. So he's going in a good spot. And for LSU, the way that this played out, him not coaching what would have been the SEC championship or the college football playoffs, you want this guy in your building now. It gives you such a head start. And that impact's not really going to be felt on signing day. But in terms of roster retention and in terms of talent acquisition for a roster that needs a lot of work, this was best case scenario for LSU and Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, so I did some intel on this to see, like with the new hires, John Summerall at Florida and at Auburn with Alex Golish, if we were going to see a lot of recruits flipping before signing day. And based on what I understand, a lot of the Auburn and Florida guys aren't flipping. Is that true?
I haven't dug into that as much. There's been some movement over the last week, but in the SEC, I will say this: like, especially Florida, especially Auburn, the jobs that have turned over are also jobs that have invested a lot financially,
Yes.
and they have equipped themselves from an NIL standpoint where they have been super proactive. And these are teams that maybe in the last couple of years had caught some flack for not being where they need to be from an NIL standpoint. I think in this day and age, I was telling a family member this, hey, we need to keep this staffer because of recruiting. And it's like, yeah, there is some institutional knowledge and some experience base that you would like to have around because that's critical and that's important. And you give the program a familiar face. But this is so much more transactional than I think a lot of people really care to know.
Yes.
And it's important about where these guys play and who they represent. And I understand that. But from a financial standpoint, especially, like, I haven't heard anything about Lamar Brown. Lamar Brown was
No,
in the
he.
Hobbs building tonight. I could be wrong, but I don't think Lamar Brown was wavering regardless, right? It could have been
No.
John Summerall. I think he would have been up there waving and everything would have looked okay as well. So it's not like the signing day years ago where you're sitting there, is
Right.
there going to be 5 for 5? Is there going to be Landon Collins? And we're making the last push for these phone calls. And it's not that. It's, hey, we've settled on a dollar amount. This is where he wants to be. I know he's going to be taken care of. I know you guys are going to hire a really good head coach, and it's what it is.
And that was going to be my point. You made this comment when part of your Lane logic was a lot of these deals are set, right? So, a lot of these kids are going to sign. So with signing day around the corner, it's obviously your expertise. LSU should feel pretty good that they're not going to have any like last second guys change, or I could be wrong on that.
No, I think I would expect par for the course just in terms of what's in the boat. Maybe somebody looks around after over the next week or so. this could be a little bit of a cap saving standpoint. Maybe there's a player in the class that they think doesn't fit and said, hey, we're going to
Yeah.
move off of that spot and we like to get a spot or two back. Or there's a player from Ole Miss's class where they say, hey, it's opportunistic. We really like the scheme fit here. We're going to bring you in. You think we're a good fit here at LSU. So yeah, I think it could be that. I don't think you're going to see massive changes regardless. I think you'll maybe here and there, one or two guys, maybe a couple additions, and maybe a couple guys that go explore opportunities elsewhere. But that's because they've been given a little bit of a nudge.
I have been absolutely abused for my statement that I think Ole Miss should have seriously considered letting Lane coach the team in the playoff. Set me straight on this, Cooper. How wrong am I on this?
Well, it's hard, right? Because there's the emotional piece of it, and then there's the objective piece of it. And as an Ole Miss fan, I can completely understand not even entertaining having Lane Kiffin coach your football team. But on the other side of it is that you have a legitimate title contender with the guy who ultimately, at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel about him, is responsible for really promoting your program into uncharted territory. And I thought about this a little bit deeper, and I thought to myself, hey, if you're a Keith Carter and you took a step back from 30,000 feet and you wanted Ole Miss to position itself in college football in a way that it had not been perceived before, which is why you're in this exact situation, because LSU's perceived as a better program than Ole Miss, then what's best for the university long term? Which this is very macro level thinking. But if let's play it out, if Lane Kiffin were to coach Ole Miss and they were to have success, and let's say they went to the semifinals or they went to the national championship, then how were you to view Ole Miss in terms of pedigree and reputation in the new era of college football if you were a coach? If you were, let's say, Kenny Dillingham, and this job came open a year from now, and you said, well, hold on, I know they've had success. I know they're dialed on the NIL front. I've seen everything that Lane could do. And I know Lane pushed them to the limits and, let's say, went to the semifinal appearance. And this was not supposed to be the team. The team was supposed to be last year, right? You mentioned that.
Yes.
So I believe if I'm a candidate, maybe there's another gear there that I can kind of tap into. That's the argument if I'm an Ole Miss fan, if I'm Keith Carter and I'm evaluating the situation, I'm saying, hold on, like there is a potential program altering hypothetical out there for us, just in terms of how people view this place and perceive this place. And potentially the only way to unlock it is to go there with the guy that has put us in this situation.
That's what I didn't and I kept having that same opinion. All right. And I get it. This is a Magnolia Bowl rivalry. This is the most big bro, little bro move. But that doesn't mean you can't win the national championship. I just don't think Pete Golding is going to lead you to the national championship. I just don't think that. Even though I think that's the move they should have made. I wouldn't have understood the Joe Judge interim thing. I would have done exactly what Ole Miss did today. If Summerall wasn't going, I would have made Pete Golding the interim. Do you agree with that? Or the full-time guy?
Right. I agree with the Pete Golding move. I think, the timeline's wonky here.
Yes.
Because from what I understand, it sounds like the deal was agreed to in principle at some point last week between LSU and Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
Which at that point, I believe Keith Carter was in the know, but also understood that Lane had some conflicting emotions about what he was going to do. And to Keith Carter's defense, hey, if you feel like you got the guy, then you got to do everything in within your reasonable suspicion to find a way to keep him. And I think at this point, the way that it played out over the last 48 hours, I mean, this morning, once that first domino went down, it was either Golish or Summerall. They were all gone.
You're gone.
along
Yeah.
with Silverfield and Lane was kind of the first one to go. So it put Ole Miss in a very difficult situation where I think they would have, if they had gotten clarity on this situation maybe 72 hours ago, they could still be in a position where they might be in pursuit of John Summerall.
That's interesting because so you might have intel on this as far as Summerall is concerned, because there are some Tulane Green Wave people in here. Benny, good to see you. Mo Voss and all of that. We appreciate everyone in here. We're going to get to everyone's comment when we let Cooper go here in a moment. But your thoughts on the whole Summerall saga, because he's connected to the Auburn job. We know it's ties to the state of Alabama. We've talked about it plenty of times. Then he ends up going to Florida, but he had coached at Ole Miss and he had coached at Kentucky. And now there's rumors with what Mitch Barnhart could do with the Kentucky Wildcats. So, I mean, do you think Ole Miss potentially screwed themselves on Summerall here?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the number that he got was $7.5 million. And I think what was interesting for me is I thought Auburn was in the driver's seat for Summerall for about the last week. And last time I talked to you, I think we talked about that. It was kind of Summerall as DJ Durkin. I think maybe Clark Lee was kind of hanging around at the time, maybe Eli Drinkowitz as well. Both those guys signed extensions. And Golish wasn't really a name that was really mentioned, but I think it was Florida's heavy pursuit of Summerall. Obviously, they got Urban Meyer involved. And then I think there was kind of like you start to see the separation of the jobs, right? LSU being the tier 1 job, Florida maybe being the tier 1B job, and then Auburn being in a different category itself. And I think with Summerall, that's probably where it landed. And, I don't know if there was maybe some redundancy on Auburn's side, because I know how much Auburn is hell-bent on keeping DJ Durkin. And for John Summerall, who's a defensive identity, and to be a guy that's going to be a first-time Power 4 coach, and to go in a situation where it was either you or option 1B, and if things get a little off to a checkered start, that guy's in the building with administrative ties and connections. Like I've been there before. That stuff just gets a little ambiguous, right? It's not the most comfortable for guys that are especially first-time head coaches at the Power 4 level. So I think maybe what Florida offered just made a little bit more sense to him for a guy that was going to be a first-time Power 4 head coach. The resources were in place. You see what they've done from a recruiting standpoint the last couple of years on the high school side under Billy Napier. And I think John Summerall is going to bring more urgency to like a win now mode. Billy was so process oriented. And I think Billy did a good job with that on the high school side. But there was like, when you evaluated Billy, there was always like, man, this guy, I feel like this guy feels like he's going to coach the entirety of his 7-year contract. And it's like, so I just wanted to shake him and be like, hey, you got to figure it out now. Like, come on, man. You don't get that much time. So I think Summerall kind of understands that. He kind of reminds me, more and more I hear him talk, like, I don't know if it was his intro presser or whatever it was, but he was talking about how, it's mandatory to have an explosive offense at Florida. I'm like, man, he's really reminding me of kind of Mario Cristobal a little bit. I work for Mario. That's how Mario talked. He just kind of like, he had that language that was kind of emphatic, and he kind of knew how to play to the people. And I'm like, this guy's got a little Mario to him. So he's edgy. I think Florida fans are going to like that, especially since Billy was so poised and reserved regardless of the situation. Now you get a fire breather in John Summerall down there in Gainesville.
True or false? Lane Kiffin needs to make the college football playoff 2 out of every 3 seasons. Now, before I answer that, Verge Osbury says LSU needs to be a program in the playoffs every season. I think 2 out of every 3 seasons is about where the standard needs to be. Do you feel that's fair?
Yeah, that's more than fair. I mean, if this is going to be the job that's so highly regarded,
yes,
then the standard needs to be met, and that's the reality. I mean, like, that's the expectation. People expect LSU to be in the playoffs. This is not a 14 playoff. This is a 12-team playoff. And I think that clock needs to start when the first playoff is made. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that will more than likely probably be 2027. But that, you can be surprised all the time. I mean, this guy's done a phenomenal job being able to flip rosters, and he's used to it. I think that the thing for Lane that's not a conundrum, but is going to be the challenge is marrying the promise and the natural resources that you have with LSU on the high school recruiting side with what he's gotten so, I would say, used to in terms of roster building at Ole Miss. I mean, these dudes are, they're inverted. They're one of the truly inverted programs in college football in terms of roster build. So what I mean by that, if you're an inverted program, means you have more of a majority percentage base on the transfer side than you do the high school side.
Yes.
So Ole Miss is an inverted roster build. And at LSU, I don't believe it needs to be that way. It needs to be organically built, and it probably needs to be around 60% high school, which is where you want to be. And it fluctuates anywhere from 60 to 65%. And then, you're peppering it, obviously, with win now championship players via the transfer portal.
And I agree with you. I mean, you look at most of the teams that are higher ranked in the college football playoff, they're mostly those kinds of teams, right? Like Arvell Reese was a high school football recruit for them. And yeah, you have transfers. Sayin was technically a transfer, but Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. And then you go to Georgia, who people got so mad in our last stream, us waxing poetic. Who's your personnel buddy at Georgia? What's his name?
Will Myers.
Yeah. Will Myers. Will, we're going to shout you out again, Will. Cooper and I need to be at the Georgia facility doing a show. We're going to shout you out again.
It's going to be a Georgia show for you.
Yeah, you never know. Look. Georgia, yeah, Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas. That's great. But you got to have your Lawson Luckies. Got to have your Oscar Delps. You got to have your Gunnar Stocktons, your high school
in
guy.
His bag. Let's go, baby. I see.
Wait, who is?
I'm talking about you in your bag.
Yeah, well, yeah, dude,
because you got called out last time.
I got called out for not knowing enough about Georgia. That was the weirdest thing. I was like, okay, on an LSU channel, I actually know I do film studies on these guys every week, but there's just not been enough good high school players at LSU. And Brian Kelly, if you actually go back and listen to his press conferences, that's what he said over and over. I want to build my program through the high school ranks. And he was not good at doing that. He was not good at developing what he had, and hopefully Lane will be better at that very thing. Now, here's the thing. What a lot of people don't know is that your YouTube count, we need to get you to 1,000 as soon as we possibly can. We're at 475, man. Last time you were on here, I think it was like 420. We're moving up, baby.
I've been dragging a little bit. I got to be honest, man.
You drag?
Well, I've been back and forth between Tennessee and Louisiana. I got a newborn, building a new house. I'm working on it, dude. We're gonna have to have you on here pretty soon. I think we're gonna have you on in the next week or two.
I'll blow it out, baby. 475. We got to get him to 1,000 as soon as we possibly can. So if you can, go subscribe. Look, I even post the link in here. That's the only thing I ask, folks, is to go get. Let's talk about the portal. All right, this is, for those who don't know, this is your job. Okay, you have it in your description. Transfer portal. Okay, your thoughts on how you feel about the transfer portal market coming up potentially for LSU, because there are a lot of one-year guys that are going to be gone. Okay, I think most people look at, well, Mansour Delane, he's going to be gone. AJ Halsey, he's going to be gone. Those are superstars that are going to be gone, but you still got a lot of role players, very good role players that are going to be gone at key position and key positions, including basically your entire defensive end room that's healthy right now. Your thoughts on LSU's upcoming transfer portal needs, and follow up with, what do you think Lane's going to do at quarterback?
I have one name circled at quarterback. I think I know you're ready. I think the guy, just, this is not sourced or any of it. All right. This is just in my head. speculative. If I was in the building in Baton Rouge, this would be my guy. Okay, I would say, all right, I like the fit. Sam Levitt, Arizona State. That would be the guy. I like the play style. You watch him, and obviously Kenny Dillingham had Bo Nix at Oregon. That's kind of the guy that he kind of reminds me of, and he kind of reminds me a little bit of Mateer too. He needs some polish, but if you talk to NFL scouts, especially West Coast scouts, have been scouting him at Arizona State. This is a guy that they feel has day one physical traits and makeup. So I think for Lane, that guy makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the other name that's going to be connected to him is Trinidad Chambliss. Does he get another year? He would have to apply for a waiver. And then you're going to have guys out there like Lenora Sellers, who, in my opinion, I'm just going to get out in front of it. I don't think it's the best fit for what Lane wants to do, right?
Really?
Too streaky of a passer, inconsistent. I mean, listen, a lot of people look at South Carolina in a situation, what they have on the perimeter, what they have in the offensive line. This guy's been sacked over 70 times in the last 2 seasons. I get it. But if you're Lane Kiffin, I think that stability as a passer, the accuracy, especially in the short to intermediate, like that's a big deal. And it kind of reminds me of like the Nico versus kind of like Joey Aguilar type of thing.
Right.
We can fall in love with like the talent. But if you can't do the routine things routinely, then the essence of everything that you're building in that microcosm, that structure of an offense fails to exist. So Drew Mestamaker is going to be a guy out of North Texas. I think he'll probably go with Eric Morris to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. I mean, but if I had to circle a guy, it'd be Sam Levitt. And then Austin Simmons. Like I will say, I believe Austin Simmons, Lane Kiffin, the way that he handled that quarterback situation, like even when everybody knew Trinidad Chambliss was the guy, he was always really, I think, delicate about handling the confidence of Austin Simmons. And it was one of those where it was like, I want to make sure I have this guy around for the future. So we have to get him involved, even to the point where you saw him getting involved in critical parts of games and goal line situations. And it was like, it didn't really make a lot of sense, but he was trying to find a way to get him involved. So I think he thinks very highly of Austin Simmons, and Trinidad Chambliss was just a good fortune that kind of came into his lap. So quarterback, obviously I gave you the names there. I think offensive line needs a full-blown evaluation. I think that's going to be the most critical hire on the staff once he moves on from Brad Davis, which I would fully expect him to do. But Tyree Adams, showed some flashes this year. I think left guard, they need more consistency. You went from Cohen Eccles to Paul Mupinga. Center Braylon Moore, I believe, is gone, right? Right guard Josh Thompson, I believe, would be gone.
Yes.
And then Weston Davis, absolutely, you can have the conversation about like the win now conversation is, hey, can this guy continue to develop? Absolutely. But with where we're aiming, we can't afford that, right? Because we saw where that put us this year. The receiver thing, Lane's transfer class in Oxford was bananas between Trey Wallace and Dazon Stribling and Deuce Alexander. What they were able to do on the perimeter is just absurd. And they brought in Luke Haas, who didn't even really play much. He was banged up at tight end. So they've done a tremendous job at the receiver position and just recruiting receivers to LSU. Like, I hate to be that guy. It's not going to be an issue. But I do think the guy that benefits from this hire the most is Trey'Dez Green. Trey'Dez goes into a guy where you're like, all right, circle that dude. Okay. Because his life's getting ready to change. Running back, I would expect them to be aggressive. I think Harlan Berry fits. But Lane's going to go out and be able to kind of get his guys. And I think he's got to re-elevate the standard to what LSU fans expected in those golden years of LSU football, where you're just rolling out guys 3 deep. Shoot, Carter, you can name all these guys, but the years of Jeremy Hill and Michael Ford and how deep these running back rooms were, it just didn't matter, right? So, man,
it's funny, because I still talk to Jay Hill, and he said he would have done anything to play in a Lane scheme. And he kind of reminds you a little bit of Kawan Lacey in some ways. And He is so excited about this, and I don't know if he's watching right now. You'll pop in a stream or two, but I do want to get your thoughts. It is now happening that Mark Stoops is gone.
Oh, really? He's out of there?
Yeah, Thamel. So that's why I kind of referenced it a little bit earlier. So you don't know this at all, Cooper. On the SEC channel, I did the deepest dive on any head coach I've ever done. And Mark Stoops is one of the luckiest coaches I have ever seen. Okay. And I'm not going to get into because it's in the Kentucky show. I don't want people to get mad. But I love talking to you about everything college football. And Kentucky fans hated my guts. All right. They just did. Okay. I don't hate Mark Stoops. It's just the day that when they signed him to that extension and the next day they lost to not Clark Lee's version of Vanderbilt, I was like, this is not going to work out well. I am shocked that they are doing this. Shocked. They and not because he's bad, but you better have a plan in place if you're going to be firing a guy this late.
Yeah, the Summerall thing is funny, man. I don't think anybody's benefited more this cycle than John.
Yeah.
Just because you look at this cycle and it's kind of it's uninspiring a little bit, right? Like we talked about it. Like the people making these decisions, I don't think are as inundated in the game as people think they are. Like these administrators, right?
Yeah.
It's like who's the next proven guy? I mean, this was kind of like the most telegraphed coaching hire cycle that I've seen, just in terms of like, okay, once Lane's off the board, then what's next? Okay, Florida says, okay, we couldn't get the big fish. Who's the next biggest name? They went back to the group of 5 ranks in Louisiana. There was like, what type of creativity do you have? Like, who else are you going to interview? Like, are there names out there? Are you going to take a shot? Is there a Will Stein out there? Is there a Glenn Schumann out there? Like, is there a Clark Lee out there? None of that. They just went and they got John Summerall. Auburn goes out and they get Alex Golesh. Arkansas goes out and they get Ryan Silverfield. Like, there was no type of like independent thought process. It was like, here are the collective names we're going to pick out of this hat. Here are the names that we have been told are next up. And you and I talked about this. You think about the guys that are the coaches of college football. Kenny Dillingham was a first-time coach at Arizona State. Clark Lee, a first-time coach at Vanderbilt. Dan Lanning, a first-time coach at Oregon. Kirby Smart, a first-time coach at Georgia. I mean, have some gall, man. Like, where are your stones? Do your homework. You're telling me that's the best you can go find? I just, like, I don't believe it. You can't swing on a coordinator. And this is what these guys do in the NFL. And if it doesn't work out, 3 years, you're out. And you go find the next one. It's so unoriginal. No wonder you are where you are. I don't get it. So I don't know who's sitting shotgun with these guys. Here's my thing. If you ended up on Golesh or Summerall or Silverfield and you said, hey, I vetted, like Arkansas and Hunter Yurachek said he did, I vetted over 20 plus candidates. Like, okay, I'd love to see that list.
Yes.
All right.
Send it.
Let's go through them, pluses and minuses. What didn't you like, or what did you like about that? And I don't know. And
it pisses me off.
To the point of Kentucky. Okay, Kentucky's in one of those spots where Mark Stoops should get credit for building up the expectations to win 8 games a year. Let's call it that, right?
Yeah,
he should get credit for that. Now you can go out there if you're Kentucky. Nobody's looking over your shoulder and say, hey, you got to go get the next name on the board.
No.
Go out there, have an extensive vetting process, and find the next guy and the right guy that fits you. Because when you're at a place like Kentucky, when you're at a place like Arkansas, it benefits you to go out and try to find someone unique, someone different, someone that can give you an advantage where you see the advantage where maybe other people don't. So, to me, like if it's Kentucky, figure it out what you want to miss on. What is it? Do you want to miss on culture, an established culture vision? Do you want to tie that in with a guy that has a strong offense or defense identity? Do you have a guy that's been around a winning environment, that's an innovator, that's a critical thinker, that's been ahead of the sticks, but you know what? teams are lukewarm on him now, but projecting if he has one more good year, he's going to be a hot name. Maybe just take the swing on him now. But it's none of that. Our game has no creativity. It has no innovation. And
None.
it's unfortunate, and guess what? You might fail, but that's part of it, man. And I think a lot of these guys, what happens is they make decisions based on self-preservation.
Yes.
They don't make decisions on winning big.
We hired this consulting firm and they told us to go after these names, and it's the same names. It's the same freaking names. I would definitely, as a program, kick the tires on Colin Klein. Someone that's different. Someone like that, man.
We're not just being different to be different, but somebody who's got a recipe for success. I mean, if you're Kentucky offensively, it's been a
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, hey, offensively, we have struggled to build any type of identity over the last handful of years. Where's an area that we really want to be good? And here's the other thing: based on where we are geographically, like, what do we need to do to circumvent some of the natural disadvantages that we have? Like, I'll give it to Mark Stoops, man. SEC footprint, Kentucky. Kentucky does not put out a lot of players. He did something pretty interesting that I don't think a lot of people pick up on. They recruited the state of Ohio exceptionally well.
Yes.
And guess what? When Luke Fickell was there at Cincinnati, that's kind of what led to the promising years that they had there at UC. And he recruited Cincinnati, he recruited Indiana, he recruited Detroit. They did a phenomenal job in that area. And Mark Stoops, you kind of evaluated Kentucky as like a 1B tier 2 Big Ten school. Not even an SEC school, but that was kind of their geographic footprint that was capable of getting into the Peach State, going down to Florida when they needed to as well. So, dude, Kentucky is like, I love these jobs that are freaking challenging. I love Clark Lee at Vanderbilt in Nashville, where everybody looks around and says, it's desolate, it's a desert, you'll never win there. Dude's freaking 10-2, man.
10-2 at Vandy, dude.
10-2 at Vandy is absolutely insane. And then in Kentucky,
it's insane.
You have to think big. You have to have people that believe in the vision. And then guess what? When they get it in the ring and it doesn't work out, they have the ability to think on their feet and adapt. Kentucky is one of those jobs. It takes everything you freaking have to succeed there. That's why you need somebody that's going to give it 110%, but can also, adapt and think quickly and innovate. I'm not just throwing out buzzwords. Like, those things are so freaking important. And the guys at the top of the game, man, Kiffin, Smart, Lanning, like, they're adaptable. They're flexible. Their teams find different ways to win. They take on the same identity, but if they have to do something uncomfortable that requires them to level up their game, they're capable of doing that. It's a whole freaking game, dude. So Kentucky, you got me fired up because Kentucky's just like, I'd like to see Kentucky just go out there and just be like, yeah, we're Colin Klein or Will Stein or Glenn Schumann or, like, hey, we're going to go take a swing, man. Go take a swing.
I'm going to say something publicly that I was going to tell you privately because I think you know this person. All right. So after I did my live stream last night, so I cut my post-game live stream because I got a text saying, hey, it's going to go down tonight. All right. So I was like, well, let me go eat some dinner because I know I'm going to go live later. We went 3 hours until like 2 a.m. And I had to go cut my film studies for the SEC channel. I did the Tennessee one. And then I had Tennessee fans saying, what the hell are you doing a film study on us? Do a film study on Vanderbilt. And Cooper, I just studied everything about this program, who they hired analytically. And then I had kind of sort of forgotten about the Barton Simmons thing. They hired a 247 guy. And you know what I said? I was like, F it. And I don't think he's seen it or anything like that. I don't even know how to read if people have seen these messages. I sent a DM to Barton Simmons. I sent him a DM. I was like, dude, you just inspire the shit out of me, dude. Like, you really, you were doing 247. You're running things at Vanderbilt. You're 10-2 at Vanderbilt. people thought you were crazy. I remember people thought he was crazy taking a good job from 247, and now he's at freaking Vanderbilt. So Barton Simmons, if you're watching this, respond to my DM, damn it, because that's you. I wasn't just saying this just to say you. So do you know Barton? I'm sure you do.
I do. I know him a little bit, not a lot, but he's
Okay.
he's a very good dude.
Yes, Barton, you inspired the shit out of me, bro. You lived what everybody that wanted to do college football media wishes they could do. And you go there and you did what you have done at freaking Vanderbilt. And they kicked our asses this year. And I have to admit it publicly. It was such a crazy amount of out-coaching that out-coaching doesn't even describe what they did to us in Nashville. So I hope Pavia wins a Heisman. I'm all in on Vanderbilt. I'll also say this. It took a blown coverage and a miracle for Oklahoma to beat LSU. Don't put Oklahoma in the playoff over Vanderbilt. Don't do it. Put Vandy in the field college football playoff. Put him in over Notre Dame. Put him in over all these other scrubs. I need Vandy in the CFP, baby.
Vandy needs to be in the CFP.
Thank you, Cooper. Thank you. Put their asses in.
I think they'll find a way to make it happen.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, shoot, dude. I look at it this way: if you're a 5 seed, and who you got sitting at number 12, do you want to play Vandy?
No, I want.
Do you want to play? Do you want to play Texas? You know. Now here's the thing. I'm not even getting into 9-3 stuff, all that type of stuff.
Not worth it.
But 10-2 Vanderbilt. Like, do you want to play that team? And I did a video on it a couple of weeks back, man. Like, I wouldn't want to play them. That's a confident bunch. Two teams they lost to on the road, at Texas, at Alabama. I thought they were in that Alabama game, until turnover in the red zone. And yeah, Vandy's a confident team. Here's the thing about Vandy, not to be corny, they got belief. They got a quarterback that believes. They got a head coach that believes. They're a dangerous team.
Cooper, we appreciate your time. I know your wife and your family are angry because it's 10:15 in Nashville.
9:15.
All right, but
we're still in the boot.
All right, so you're back in the booth. So this is still your in-laws' house with the plant in the back.
That's right. Hey, I got one last thought for you because I've been doing this every time. The Kiffin hire, regardless on the results, I hate to say that, is so important for LSU because if you were to, what was the national narrative around this job? It was, the 3 national championships in the last however many years. Like, that was it, man. Like, when you talk to coaches, when you talk to agents, like, that's it. That's the line. 3 national like the recency. LSU swings and misses on Kiffin, then what? Like, I just went off on a tangent for the last 15 minutes talking about the lack of imagination that has gone on this coaching cycle. And if LSU has to go down the road, and let's say they don't get a Kenny Dillingham or one of those guys, but they get a, John Summerall or a Clark Lee, and then it's another kind of mediocre era of LSU football, then how is the job seen?
It's not great.
But by LSU doing what they did, it's just reinforcing what everybody believes LSU to be, which is a top 3 job in college football. So it was important for them, in my opinion, just to go out there and kind of remind people of who's who and what's what.
Those 3 letters matter. They do. Okay. And I think Lane's going to take the brand to another level. If that was even possible, the Lane train is indeed coming. Cooper, I appreciate your friendship more than anything else. Appreciate your college football expertise, and we'll talk to you again pretty soon.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
All right. Congrats on the call of the century. True story. Whenever I release a short, I don't like doing it. I hired someone to do it for a little bit, and he did a great job. Jay Smacks. He was probably the most talented person him and Bransicat, a guy named Bransicat used to help me do shorts, and they're better video editors than me. Okay, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense because I'm just not good at shorts. So the only thing I release shorts wise is something I truly believe in. And with Cooper said what he said about Lane Kiffin and a 6 out of 10 confidence, it was a bold thing. And I released this clip, and it happens the day before Jeff Landry did what he did. Or it might have been a few days before. And I asked Cooper, I was like, I cut it, I posted it. Do you want me to delete it? He was like, no, keep it up. Keep it up. He was confident Lane was coming to LSU. And he was one of many people. I'm going to be completely honest because I don't want this channel to be insider channel. It's just not what I want it to be. Now, you get a lot more views if you know everybody and you're sourced and all that stuff. And if you're first, why do people like to be first? Because people want to know news, right? It's not what I want to do. I want to be an analyst. I want to be an entertainer. It's not what I want. Okay, but anytime there's a head coaching search, you're literally exhausting every last option you possibly can go. Apparently, the footage got kind of choppy. I don't know why that's the case. Sometimes that happens after a guest is on for a long time, which makes absolutely no sense. Okay. Hopefully this makes it better. But whatever the case may be, almost every single person that I know was trustworthily telling me that Lane was going to go to LSU. It wasn't just Cooper who actually publicly said this. Okay. So we're going to go to a quick break. We do have another break that we're kind of overdue on, and we'll come back. Hopefully the footage looks a little better. PHL Nation, it's time to lock in and get serious really quickly with our friends at Fortified Gulf Coast and FortifiedGulf.com. This is my buddy Ramey. He is one of many Fortified Gulf Coast inspection professionals that are doing something to help you not only save your home, but your memories.
The Fortified program got started about 13 years ago. We adopted it here in New Orleans about 2.5 years ago. It's a more advanced way of doing the roof. It adds an extra layer of protection, whereas even if a hurricane was to pull the shingles off this roof, water will still not get into the house.
So yes, your establishment is important, but what about the things you can't replace? That family scrapbook or that painting that's been handed down from Meemaw to Papaw and to you. It is important to protect that today with Fortified Roofing. And while this seems like a priceless asset, did you know it can actually save you on your homeowner's insurance up to 37% if you are in South Louisiana? Just call the number 504-444-7563. That's 504-444-7563, or visit FortifiedGulf.com. That's FortifiedGulf.com. Let's go. All righty. Hopefully this fixed this. We have to go to a break anyway. Let's see how it looks on my end here. Yeah, it looks a little better. Let's see. Here we go. But as I was saying, from now on, I'm not going to go with my gut. I felt pretty confident that he was going to go to LSU, and I shared that quite a bit from people that really do know stuff. And I'll be vague with some of the people. One was a very plugged in player's uncle who I really didn't know that well. I talked to him once before, and he knows stuff. I'll put it like that. He knows stuff. And then trying to make sure I say this vaguely without not burning this person. Someone who knew something on someone who knows someone on the Board of Governors. We'll put it like that. Then, of course, I shared a few times the alleged photo of Kiffin's new home, which I'm always very particular about where people live. and all of that. I've never posted this photo anywhere. But it's always kind of known where, after they move, it's pretty easy to see and figure out where they live. Then there's also a few other things, right? I do think, based on what I know, that it wasn't just Lane Kiffin that really wanted to be in BR. This makes a lot of sense for her. I don't know if her current academic status or any of that, but obviously her boo thing is in Baton Rouge, okay? But Layla was very interesting because the whole time it was Layla wants to be in Gainesville, and that's possible. She very well could have been. She went to school there. Her dad played there, all that stuff. But based on what I know, she loves Baton Rouge. Okay, she played a huge role in the day-to-day life of how Lane is going to live in BR. And obviously Knox, where is he going to go play high school football? Is it going to be U High? Is it going to be Catholic? I don't know. My best guess would be U High, but it's just a guess. All right, just a guess. Okay, but like I've said and it wasn't me straddling this, because ultimately my position was he's going to stay. All right, so I shouldn't get credit for that. But if you pay attention, Cooper said it a month ago. I posted the clip. Did you really think I was going to post a clip that I thought was going to make him look bad? No, you could tell I love this guy. All right, you can go back and listen. It's the third time Cooper's been on. The first time he was on, we have a very deep personal connection. Pause. That sounds very pause. But I wasn't going to post something that I thought wasn't something that I thought could potentially happen. Then I also did the vague train emoji thing a few times on Twitter. And if you pay attention, I did that 2 separate times. And that was when I was getting really good info. But my gut said, ultimately, as a competitor, can you really say bye to a playoff team? I don't know if I would have been bold enough to do that. And even if Lane, let's just say it doesn't, get off the ground running here in this first season, you have to be very ambitious to do what this man is doing. And it doesn't matter how you feel about his opinion of Ole Miss versus LSU. Okay? You have got to have coconuts. And I tweeted this out yesterday when Kalen DeBoer decided to go for it on 4th and 2. Dude has coconuts. I would have kicked the field goal, and I'm very aggressive on 4th down. Lane's got some umps on him. He's got some. I don't know if I've got those. I don't. To do what he did. So to leave a playoff team, that lets you know how much he believes in those 3 letters. A man with no real connection to LSU. Only the advice, really, of Saban, Carroll, and probably Coach O. To do one of the more controversial things. And for those that say, hey, that's who Lane Kiffin has always been. He is a job jumper. To that, I say that's kind of some BS here. Because he stayed at Ole Miss 6 seasons. To leave the place that you truly felt rehabilitated. That you truly felt you were yourself. To have the ESPN documentary shot, filmed, released, all those things. And then to leave this team now is being viewed as a bad move, something you should never do. But in actuality, he is the one that should be commended for doing something as bold that he is doing. Could have stayed at Ole Miss for forever, had a few other 10-win seasons, and had statues built of You and Juice outside of Vaught. Okay, and Juice, of course, is his dog. And Vaught is obviously Vaught Hemingway Stadium. But Lane's got some coconuts on him. I don't know if I have those same ones. I don't. You've got to really want to do what this man did. Okay. Tell him, Carboni, you've got to have some you-know-whats. Okay. Let's go to Land Shark. And I appreciate, by the way, Land Shark has been a rational Ole Miss fan during this whole ordeal. And you have every bit of reason to be irrational. It wasn't all about the Benjamins, though. For Brian Kelly, it was. Right? You got $100 million guaranteed. All of that. Is Lane getting a raise? Yeah, but it's not like some crazy raise. He wants the NIL fund to be plentiful. He wants a high school recruiting ground to be more fertile. And that's why he did what he did. Okay. So it's kind of crazy how every single person in the national media is basically saying, Lane, you're bowing out. You're quitting. You're leaving your team. Okay. You know, and in actuality, he is a victim. All right. Now, you shouldn't be crying about him being a victim in this spot. But for me, the way that some of the people, and I'm not talking about Ole Miss, I'm talking about the national media. Ole Miss fans have every bit of justified reason to be irrational. Now, should they have talked about Lane in some of the ways that they have talked about him? No. What I would say, though, is the way that the national media is saying, well, it's all ESPN and the CAA cover up with everybody on game day being represented by Jimmy Sexton, and it's all one big covert operation. Tell me one thing ESPN has said wrong about this whole thing. Tell me one thing. They have just said the truth. The college football calendar sucks. And this is the only sport. Think about the infinite amount of sports, the infinite amount of leagues, the infinite amount of teams that are out there. High school sports, college sports, professional sports, baseball, basketball, golf, soccer, cricket, badminton, track and field. This is the only sport. We're talking about thousands, hundreds, millions of sports leagues around the globe where the calendar is what it is in college football. This is the only one where if you were going to take another job, you would have to leave that job prior to coaching your team in the college football playoff. This is the only one. You know that Sam Smith song? I know I'm not the only one. This is the only one. And this man was put in a one-of-one unprecedented decision. And Ole Miss, you're the only one that's not allowing Lane to coach in the playoff. John Summerall is able to do it. And Lane was super indecisive because Florida was there, LSU was there, and Ole Miss was there. And once again, I'm not crying sympathy over the stress that he had to go through in this decision. He said the same thing in the interview with Marty Smith, but Marty and McGee is the show. He was a victim. Whether or not you want to say it, I'm not saying it's like anything nefarious, if you will, but he was a victim of the only sports league in the world where this would ever happen. NFL, if you want to take another job, guess what? That's all done in the offseason. All done in the offseason. NBA, you want to take another job? All done in the offseason. College basketball, all done in the offseason. College baseball. Outside of Schlossnagel, All done in the offseason. This is the only one. And the national media is not going to have any sympathy for the man? Like, not just a little bit? You want to know why? You want to know why they don't want to have sympathy for this man? It's because they aren't him. He's talented. He's gifted. And talented and gifted people get to live by a separate set of rules. Now, here's the truth. I am not that level of talent. I think I'm really good at this media stuff. I don't think I'm Bob Costas. I think I'm very damn good. Bob Costas could say F you to NBC and he'd have Amazon lined up tomorrow. Okay? Let's go to Low Life. Appreciate you, Sam. Sam is part of our Discord, which is part of the Patreon service. Patreon.com/LSU football. Let's go to Low Life. LSU still needs its GOAT football coach. We praise Saban for getting us going, but his accomplishments can be surpassed. Maybe Lane stays long enough and wins enough to get a statue at LSU. Follow up. Oh, man, the supers are flying in now. Cindy1451. 3 years ago, I watched Ole Miss fans throw trash at Brian Thomas after scoring. Completely classless. Their tears are extra sweet today. All right. I will also say this. Okay. Could just be the timing of it. But a lot of those Ole Miss burners had no problem making Kyron Lacey jokes. All right. The Children's Hospital point is brought up more by Ole Miss fans. Every school has its baggage. Every school has its tragedies. Doesn't mean you need to bring it up in every single conversation regarding one school or another. Okay? Like it just doesn't need to be brought. You don't need to bring up the absolute worst thing about a school every time you discuss it. How often do you see me do that? All right? I hate the Florida Gators. I don't bring up all the skeletons in their closet. I don't do that. It takes the fun out of it. It's like, well, yeah, that was bad. Everyone knows that was bad. But here's the thing. I don't like your name Low Life because I get it's a play on words off your name, but you're anything but a low life. You're one of the most positive people I know, Sam. You've made some bold takes in the Discord, though. You made some bold. Your boldest was that LSU baseball take. That turned out to be true. By the way, join the Discord. But here's my thing. If you're an LSU fan and you're worried about Lane Kiffin leaving, don't. Because what you would be doing is exactly what Ole Miss fans are doing right now. I just think in the world of college football now, yeah, is it nice to have stability? Is it nice to have Kirby Smart? Is it nice to have Glenn Schumann at DC every year? Is it nice to have Mike Boba at OC every year? Those guys aren't really getting head coaching jobs. Yeah, but that's Georgia. We're not Georgia. We're not Ohio State with Ryan Day where, you know, he's had to make a lot of coaching changes recently, so this doesn't really apply to them. But college football has always had the most movement when it comes to coaches. It always has, and it always will. Okay? And part of why college football has so much movement is it's the single sport that is the most uncertain. You don't get preseason. You have 22 different people that start on your team. Okay? So all 22 of those players need good backups. So you need to have a roster minimum of 44 good players. Does not include specialists. Does not include the backups to those specialists. Doesn't include deep snappers. By the way, you need 9 on-field assistants, 9 analysts, recruiting staffs, general managers. there's all these different pieces, and obviously they're of varying degrees of importance. But part of why coaches jump from job to job so much is because so many of those variables change, as far as that coordinator might not like you as much anymore if you're an analyst, so you're going to go over here. Then obviously the same thing happens there. Okay. That's why most college football coaches, you read their Wikipedia site, it looks more like the filmography of Adam Devine on IMDb. All right. Like just a bunch of random shit. Like, you don't, what? I knew you're in Righteous Gemstones, but you voiced a Ninja Turtle? What? I mean, that's why most of them look like that. So you just don't know. You just do not know. Okay. And I say all of that because Lane's not really that much different. And he stayed at Ole Miss 6 seasons. True story. Until he jumps back on here, there's a pretty prominent PHLer who, back in 2022, I texted this to him today. I don't know how I remembered this conversation, because he and I talk pretty often, okay? And I won't release these messages until he's in here and he publicly says, because I'm very particular about releasing private conversations. But this was back in 2022, when Brian Kelly had gotten beaten by Tennessee, and this was the weekend of LSU Florida in 2022, and I was in Chicago. And I texted this person and I said, I know we're only a few games into this Brian Kelly thing, but we should have hired Lane Kiffin. And I think Ole Miss was playing Auburn or something like that. And I was like, the LSU defense is always going to figure itself out. And I was wrong about that. Obviously, the LSU defense doesn't always figure itself out. But we had Matt House, whatever. We needed Lane. I said, if we should have just hired Lane. This was only a couple days into the Brian Kelly regime. Should have just hired Lane. And I've always kind of felt that. I felt that when, you look at the victory we had over the victory we had over them in 2024, which ultimately kept them out of the college football playoff. That was a lucky victory. It took Garrett playing the best football of his life. It took the greatest game of Whit Weeks' career. We got very lucky to win that game. Trey Harris stays healthy, we probably lose that game. Let's go to Black Raider Steel. Sounds like a character off a Brazzers movie. Anyway, if Moffitt doesn't return to LSU, Kiffin won't win anything. All right. Two things about that comment. And if you are new, we go into like free-flowing conversations. I don't like going too much into, and obviously I rant about certain comments or whatever. We will probably go live after Kiffin's presser tomorrow. So there you go. Let's talk about Tommy Moffitt. He has done a phenomenal job at Texas A&M. I said it when Moffitt was let go. I understood it from Brian Kelly's standpoint. The optics of it, though, were bad. He had to empty his space on a rainy day in Baton Rouge, and this was a man who was there 20 years and won those 3 national championships for us as a strength and conditioning guy. You also need to be careful firing people that started the careers of quite a few others. All right, so we're talking about the Kentucky job a minute ago. I I've always said what I've said about Mark Stoops, but Mitch Barnhart is, in many ways, in the minds of many, the gold standard athletic director. It's because he is good, but he's also launched so many careers. All right, so Mitch is out there, and he makes his move, and it's bold, okay? Moffitt started so many strength and conditioning coaches' careers. One of the coaches went on to be the coordinator at Ole Miss. Another is Scott Cochran, who is probably the most famous strength and conditioning coach out there. And, he goes to Texas A&M, and a lot of the former players want Moffitt back. They didn't want Moffitt to ever leave. And I get that. Tommy Moffitt's a very talented coach, and I like Tommy a lot. I've met Tommy. I've interviewed him once when I was a student. But why would he leave Texas A&M and come back to Baton Rouge? Why? I mean, that would be viewed as a lateral move, and I get it would be to come back home. Well, he's from Tennessee. So I'm fine with Lane bringing in the guy that he wants to bring in. Okay. But would I prefer Moffitt? Yeah, from a bias standpoint, sure. Because he is LSU in many ways. Let's go to Cliff. This is a good question. Does Kiffin's play calling style help or hurt the defense? Well, there's been conversations about the different styles of defensive coordinators meshing well with the offenses, right? So, like, the most famous example of this is honestly 2019 LSU. I think, to me, the story that gets swept under the rug is how Aranda had to adjust over the course of the season, right? Because Dave Aranda was the best defensive coordinator in the sport in the early Miles tenure, and then, he continued under Coach O. And then in 2018, you played this very slow ball control style of offense. Tell Joe Burrow to not turn it over. And then in 2019, you scored a bunch, which changes everything and how you call plays and all of that. And Aranda did a very good job of changing things up as the season moved on. And I don't want to get into what he specifically did, but one main change he did make was he started using Damon Clark a lot more on like third and long situations because we didn't have like an Arden Key hand in the dirt pass rusher who just burned everybody. Okay. We didn't have a Braden Swinson, if you will. We'd have Caleb Von Chase on, but he was a little bit more of a run and chase kind of guy. And we also didn't start Patrick Queen early in the year. Now, he did play a lot, but still. Welcome to the membership. I have a feeling we're going to get at least 5 more members tonight. Okay. So, yeah, obviously he's going to have to make a new coordinator hire. I believe it's going to be Blake Baker. I want Blake back. I do. I really, really, really do. Our guest Cooper wants Blake back. I'm a big Blake Baker guy. I put a lot of my personal stock into Blake Baker when he was hired. As many of you know, I wasn't a big Matt House guy. I'm a big Blake Baker guy. I did think he would be a little bit better than what he's been this year, but that's also his style. His style of defensive coordinator, the way he wants to be a DC is a very aggressive DC. All right, so does that work well with Lane? We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Landshark says, sorry, I don't bleed purple and yellow, no membership. It's purple and gold. That would be like me calling Ole Miss's powder blue turquoise. Okay. Well, welcome to the membership. Craig should come back. Everyone he sued is gone. He was good. But yes, Hankton is probably out the door. Brian Davis is probably out the door. Okay. Rome is excited. Game management is back. No more infamous blown timeouts. I agree. Shamor, you get to ask the next question. Go right on ahead. I don't know. I don't even know what James Craig is even doing. But I also think Tommy Moffitt would also sit here and tell you that he doesn't think he's necessary for LSU to succeed. Because if that were the case, Tommy loved LSU so much, then he definitely would come back if that were the case. Let's go to TJ. Let's go, Carter. Ultimate upgrade. Mama, oh, we made it. Oh, that's true. James Craig is an assistant for Lane. What about Matt Luke? That would be weird, huh? Bring him over from Clemson. Oh, James Craig. Very interesting. Because I thought, that's right. I thought he was with the 49ers. He's actually with the Raiders. He was with the Raiders last year as our offensive line coach. And, yeah. Sure. Let's do it. Let's go to House of Burgess. I love this show. Well, guess what? I love you, man. This is a style, though. I like your style. DJ Durkin is definitely the best defensive coordinator right now that's unemployed. He is technically still employed. He's the interim coach, but okay. Here's my thing. Why on earth? Holy shite. I got to call Cooper back, dude. I didn't see this go. Okay, it's a parody. Wow. I was about to say, I just didn't see this go through. Crazy. So many Kentucky fans want Will Stein, and somebody created a fake Will Stein Kentucky Twitter account. National media accused LSU of dysfunction. Well, let's be honest. All right. This is part of the risk Lane is taking. Okay. This is what I would advise LSU to do. You know, I've read up on Russell Wilson a few times, right? I met Russell around the same age at the Senior Bowl, and then I got to see him at the Super Bowl a year after. So this was many moons ago. And I've always been a Russell Wilson fan. And part of why he was successful was he had a life coach named Trevor Moad, who died, I think, 4 or 5 years ago with like cancer or something like that. And Trevor talked about remaining in, I believe they called it a chaotic neutral mindset. Is when you do something great, don't get too high. If you do something bad, don't get too low. Stay in neutral if you're in the sports world. It's an ebb and flow thing. The next day's story is the next day's story. No one cares about the past. Okay? So this would be my advice to the LSU brass. As much as I have never been an actual coach, I also have not been an administrator. Okay? So you nailed this. You absolutely positively nailed this. And like I said, during the dysfunction, I was doing the show from Auntie's house in Baton Rouge. I said, yeah, we are looking like a bunch of blabbering fools. Sports moves so fast, people will forget things. Lane is taking a big risk on us. He's taking a big risk on the school that called out Jimmy Sexton's name. Taking a big risk on the school that said, hey, we're not going to go out and give a coach a big contract again. So, yes, if you are the brain trust at LSU, you should be very happy that this landed. So now, what is the next move? Stay in chaotic neutral. All right? Stay in neutral. Stay on top of shit while also not getting too involved in shit. In other words, you've done most of your job, which is getting Lane here. You can't get too lax just because the job is done, a game's not been coached or any of that. But you also can't get too involved. Just be there. All right? And that's going to be the most important thing. You did it. Congratulations. And I started the show singing your praises. Don't get too involved, and also at the same time, don't get too content. Okay? Now, as is often the case with LSU and, a good bit of our fortune, the people that are at the heads of the search of Verge Osbury, that we tend to only shout them out. There was a lot of people. We talked about Saban earlier. We talked about Pete Carroll and what they've said. We've talked about LSU's relationship with Jimmy Sexton. Sexton and Verge have always had a good relationship, to my understanding. And ironically, that's where I met Jimmy Sexton. I met Jimmy Sexton at an LSU pro day many moons ago. The man's got aura. Now, I'll be honest. He's got some aura about him. That was before. He was powerful then. That was before what we know him now. Okay? Mark Stoops is owed a $38 million buyout. $38 million for Mark Stoops. Doesn't make any sense, y'all. Mark Stoops. Once again, if you're Kentucky, you don't make that move unless you feel somebody out there is your guy. And Will Stein seems to be the guy, even though there's a parody account. He's from Kentucky as well. Let's go to Rome. How are people in the great state of Arkansas? Oh, boy. It's been a tough day for the wifey. It's been a tough day. Here's the thing about Arkansas fans. All right. As you notice, we've been very emotional about Lane Kiffin. This has been a very emotional process. Ole Miss fans, they're emotional. Florida fans, they're emotional. Auburn fans, they're emotional. You want to know why? Because they have had this thing called success in the last couple of decades. You could cut, I hate to laugh because it's going to get clipped to my Arkansas audience. That's fine. You could cut the feet off of every Arkansas Razorback fans and they would feel no pain. Okay? You want to know why? Because your feet individually are called foot. And the word foot is involved in the sports name of football. And Arkansas fans feel nothing when it comes to football. They feel they have been hurt to the point of no return. You simply can't hurt them any more than they've already been hurt. Oh man. The Arkansas group chat that I'm in, my closest friend's Arkansas group chat. Okay. I've shared this plenty of times. There's 8 legit Arkansas grads, but everyone in there is an Arkansas fan. They grew up in Arkansas. They felt nothing about today. Nothing. All right. They're like, oh, we hired the bottom of the barrel coach. James Franklin used him for a raise. Alex Golish used him for a raise. Alex Golish from the AAC leveraged you for a raise. He's done nothing. Nothing. It's crazy. They can feel no pain. None. They have an athletic director who doesn't care, who's more busy about doing 6-7 jokes in the middle of a college football playoff race, by the way, where he is the chair. It just makes no sense, dude. They don't even know what the sport of football is when it comes to the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's just how it is. It's laughable because you wouldn't believe it to be true, but it is true. Okay, they would have done anything to win that game versus LSU. You lose by 1 in a game where you out yard per played them by nearly a full yard, and your elite field goal kicker misses his only long kick of the season. That's Arkansas. That's Arkansas. And so what does Arkansas do? Well, they hire Ryan Silverfield, who probably would not have gotten this job had he lost to Arkansas earlier this year, which they should have done. They should have lost that game. Silverfield is they got some of the most miraculously bad calls go in their favor for them to pull it off, and Arkansas fumbled the ball late to lose that game. Going into Missouri, Arkansas had a plus 3-point differential. Plus 3-point differential for a team that was 2-8. Do you understand how wild that is? All right. So for those that don't know, when you lose a game, you're guaranteed to have a negative point differential because you lost the game. They had won their 2 games at the beginning of the season by so much, and they had lost all 8 of these games by so little, they still had a positive point differential. And they still, after the first 5 games of the season, were producing at the same level as some of the all-time greatest offenses, 2020 Alabama, 2019 LSU. They were over that ridiculous mark of 7.2 yards per play. It's crazy. Let's go to Reggie. Carter, what's up? Happy holidays, brother. Can we talk about the 2026 and 2027 recruiting classes? Can we flip Tristan Keys and Elijah Haven? So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be important. Does Lane Kiffin view Peyton Houston the same way that we view Peyton Houston? Maybe Lane Kiffin will look at Elijah Haven and say, yeah, he's a better fit for what we want. He's in our backyard. Let's go get him. I've spoken my piece on this a few times. I want Peyton Houston. Part of that is because he's already committed, but not my opinion. Not my opinion. Oh, a lump sum buyout? Oh, so that means he's getting all of it. He's getting all of that up front, dude. Oh, man. Oh, man. $38 million. Think about $38 million buyout at Kentucky. People talk about the Brian Kelly contract being the worst. The Mark Stoops contract is one of the worst contracts I have ever seen. Ever seen. Like, could you imagine if A&M had made that move? Could you imagine? That's a good question, TMB. It all comes down to what he does with the roster. It's really, really, really impossible to know. Let's go to Pegasus. If Mark Stoops is gone, who is my new most overrated SEC coach? Well, it's kind of tough because two of the guys I've always gone to bat for have had bad seasons. I'm a huge Heupel guy. It's been a tough year for him. I'm a Beamer guy. I still believe in Shane Beamer. Tough year for him. I'm not a big Venables guy. He had a pretty big year. So my new most overrated coach, I could still make the argument for Venables, but man, his defense is the nastiest in the SEC. So I don't know. I mean, I really, really, really don't know. You could make a case for A&M or Vanderbilt after this next season. Like right now, they're hot, but what are they gonna look like next year? Brian Kelly to Kentucky. It's kind of a Midwest job. All right, you want a hot take? This might be a scorcher, but there is a legit chance that when it's all said and done, that Derek Stingley is the best professional LSU player of all time. I mean, read this. Did not allow a single reception today on 28 coverage snaps versus the Colts. This is Stingley's 5th game this season, allowing less than 10 yards in coverage. And this is, I think, one of his former teammates. Okay. This guy, Derek Stingley, man, let me tell you, he's going to say 7 words during the week, show up, eat his Popeyes or Chick-fil-A on the bus before the plane, show up on Sunday, clamp your best receiver, get on the bus, go to sleep, and get ready to do it all over again. Yeah, it's who he is, man. It's crazy. I think Jamar Chase has a legit shot at being the best LSU professional player of all time. I don't know who that would be now. I mean, who would that be now? Like the best. Alan Faneca? All right. It's still crazy to me. Like, you can't, like, I'm refreshing to see if Kentucky's going to hire Will Stein tonight. You, once again, don't do something like that unless you have a guy lined up. But every time you do look at Twitter or you look at your phone, you see these comments. Dan Wolken of USA Today. I've written about it multiple times and tweeted about it even more than that. We're still underplaying the fact that a college football coach abandoned his team to take another job before the GD playoffs. If you shrug this off, you're a moron. It's not normal. Okay. Dan, I've had Dan on my radio shows back when I was still doing radio plenty of times. I think he's a prolific college football writer. We know nobody is underplaying this. All right. And the fact that people won't show both sides and say both sides of the story. It's a shame that he's not allowed to coach this team in the playoffs. A shame. That a man can't be ambitious enough to take a new job when in every other sport, when you take a new job, it almost all the time happens at the end of the season. That's how most stuff operates. This is just an insane comment from Ben Brown. Pete Carroll and Nick Saban put their integrity on the line for Lane Kiffin. Wow. Really? Their integrity? You think Pete Carroll and Nick Saban, who are Hall of Famers, give two shits about Ben Brown's opinion on their integrity? They're old. Their legacies are set. They're millionaires many times over. They just gave the advice that Lane Kiffin was seeking. Why are we victimizing them? They just gave their opinion. Savannah, you couldn't even face your own players in person to tell them the news yourself. Yes, because they wouldn't let them. They wouldn't let them do it. When you should be letting them coach. Okay? Let's go to Big Papa. 44464. Kiffin doesn't deserve to coach Ole Miss in the playoffs. He quit on his team. Let's not forget Lane did this at Tennessee as well. Tennessee wasn't in the playoff. But I get what you're saying. This guy is a whore. Oh, okay. You didn't call him an HOE. You didn't call him a Santa coming down the chimney. You called him the whole whore. He didn't do what he did to Tennessee. He had 6 years at Ole Miss. He only was at Tennessee for a season. Okay. Now, once again, I have no problem with Ole Miss saying, hey, we don't want you near our team. Sayonara. Man, there is a piece of me that hopes Ole Miss never wins another college football game again. That piece of me already existed, but I didn't think it would go one step further. But that's where we are right now. Huh? Crazy to me. I don't even read comments. I feel like I read more comments than anyone else. That's why I go 2+ hours, especially if it's a big story. I try to read every comment. It's impossible. Okay, sometimes I miss when people actually send me Venmos because I'm trying to keep up with all the YouTube and all of those kind of comments. Okay. So, Downtown Jake, this is your chance. Baseball Evil Knievel. Ask me anything that you want. I'm actually going to stop this stream, not read another comment until you get your comment in. Go right on ahead. Okay. And while you do that, oh my God. Lane Kiffin will spurn y'all in 5 years. Oh my goodness. Downtown Jake, you had your shot. You had your shot. And your comment was the same comment that 99% of Ole Miss fans are having here. Won't even sniff the playoffs. Well, guess what, Downtown Jake? Your ass might not sniff the playoffs if you keep talking reckless. I'll text old Hunter Yurachek right now and tell him, hey, Ole Miss is going to suck now without you. And they'll kick your ass out the playoff this year. If I had to choose between Ole Miss and Vanderbilt right now, give me Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt would kick y'all's asses without Lane. Carter, the Lettermen at LSU are really excited. Can you comment on how LSU alienated the Lettermen? Yeah, I can. I'll share a few things as far as that is concerned. Okay. Jordan Ike Black, is this the greatest day for you in the history of your days? Sure. Why not? I got to have my mother-in-law's cheesy carrots again. So, yeah, it's been a pretty big day. Good to see you, Jordan. Yeah, the Mamba nickname is back. I will not accept that one. But, yeah, let's talk about the former players at LSU. So, obviously, if I were advising Lane Kiffin to do something, it would be to keep Frank Wilson in some capacity. Now, what capacity would that be? I don't know. You know, I do think one thing about Frank that would help out is if you kept him around, you would keep the former players engaged by keeping him around. Okay. Now, how open door of a policy is Lane Kiffin going to have? I don't know. I do think, though, to defend Brian Kelly, the former players just didn't like him. He wasn't a former LSU guy. He's a Midwestern. You know, he just wasn't a fit, if you will. And then Brian Kelly would have former players at practice take photos with them, post about it, how much he enjoyed, whether you were Tyrann Mathieu or if you were Benny Logan, right? And Benny Logan was a great player. It's just, it shows you, you know, he would have quite a few former players around. But I do think former alums like splash, because you don't need to be a former alum to get excited about Lane Kiffin. Okay. Lane knows some of these guys because obviously being in Alabama, you're recruiting. Some of these players are coming to Alabama while you're there. But yeah, I think the relationship with former alums are going to be even better if you win. Okay. But yeah, I've heard basically the same thing. I shared what I shared earlier about my conversation with Jeremy Hill. So yeah, fired up about it. I'm not a former player though, as many of you know, but I don't want to speak on behalf of all of them. Okay. Showing up and thinking about those cheesy carrots. Well, next time you're in my hood, I'm gonna get my Mimi to make something for you. A lot of people want the cheesy carrots recipe. You'll post it every time, Cliff, for me to read your comments. Oh man. Now I always want first timers to feel welcome. Okay, let's go to downtown Jake again. Last time LSU won, you had hair, maybe. I don't know why everyone thinks I'm bald when I get my hair cut so short. Now every time I get my hair cut, my barber just is like, "Why do you want to get it cut so short?" This is a choice. I understand it makes me look old on here because I don't have hair. So maybe I need to start wearing a visor. Maybe that'll make me look young. Okay. Let's go, Lane. Train, bitches. Let's go. Okay. Now, I want to go through a few things outside of the Lane Kiffin scope as far as the college football playoff is concerned. Okay. Clean scalp, bro. Yeah, I don't know when the waxing's going to happen. A lot of you are just way too concerned about my body. Pressure is tomorrow at 3 p.m. You want the afro back? That's not my call. The wifey makes that call. Okay. Sibley wants me to grow it out. If I get a hundo super chat, I'll grow out the fro. Okay. I don't know if I want to do that. I'll probably send her right back. But yeah, I honestly would do it at this point. I did have the OBJ look back in the day. Now, this will be an interesting talking point because the single most important college football playoff rankings will be on Tuesday. All right. I think we are in for some major changes to the college football playoff format. So last year, a team like SMU got in over Ole Miss. And I think the playoff was saved from itself because Ole Miss got so screwed last year by the College Football Playoff Committee, royally screwed. And if you're just now tuning in tonight for the first time, I went on 1,000 Twitter rants about this, 1,000 rants on here about it. They were by far, to me, the best SEC team last year. Okay. But like Texas, the loss column didn't agree. The problem here is Texas isn't as good as Ole Miss, but Texas is going to have a major push for them to get into the playoff because this would be their third playoff in a row. They're a big brand. They draw one of the biggest numbers. And they did beat Vanderbilt head-to-head. But the problem I have with college football fans is they want to talk about the loss column, the loss column, the loss column. Well, what they don't understand is, yeah, Texas should not be overly penalized for their loss to Ohio State at Ohio State, but Texas sucked versus Kentucky. They should not have won that game. They won that game. Texas stunk versus Mississippi State. They shouldn't have won that game, but they found a way to win that game. It was a true miracle that they won both of those games. Now, where I sympathize with them is that was the last 2 games of 4 consecutive games that they played on the road with no bye weeks. So that's difficult to deal with, but that's on them for scheduling it like that. So I don't think they should get in. I don't. Even if a lot of crap were to go haywire this weekend. Now, what I think is going to happen with the playoff is the ACC does have a 7-5 team playing in its conference championship game. And the ACC's best team is Miami. I think anyone that has 2 eyes would believe that. Miami's lost 2 close games, and they're not going to get an at-large bid because Notre Dame is ahead of them, even though they've beaten Notre Dame head-to-head. Miami's the best ACC team. They just don't have that great of an in-game coach. So there you go. Thanks for not answering. I did answer your question. You gave me the Mamba comment again. Ha ha ha. Oh, okay. I saw you were saying that as a joke. Okay. So there you go. All right, we're going to answer a few more in the next 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not going to do another 5-hour stream tonight. I'm sorry, guys. Can't make it happen. I wish I could, but I can't. What a freaking day, dude. That Lane train. Yeah, and once again, if you have 3 losses, your wins need to be like Ole Miss's wins last year. They beat everybody by double digits. All right, those games, they didn't play their best in every game, but they weren't close. Okay? God, dude. Dang, Alex Golish. Oh, man. The deal went down for him at 1 a.m. last night. Crazy. Crazy. I do not think Vanderbilt's going to get in, though. I do not think Vanderbilt's going to get in. Do not. I say tomorrow. We'll know Tuesday. Welcome, Bravo, to the memberships, bro. What if MVB hits the portal before the bowl game? No way in hell he's on the roster next year unless we want to win 3 games. The only way that's going to happen is if a new school wants him to be the starter and they tell him, hey, you're our new guy, you got to sit out. So, like, this happened last year with Bo Pribula. So, Penn State was getting ready to go on a playoff run, and Pribula had the offer he had for Missouri, and if he were to play for Penn State and get hurt, well, that's everything. Okay, Missouri wants you coming in fresh. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I think he's going to play the bowl game. January 2nd to 16th. Okay. So our bowl game's going to be before that. But Donnie, thank you so much, man. Welcome. Let's go to Kid Latin 27. All right, LSU fans, you got what you wanted, but don't be surprised if he doesn't win you a lot of games next year. Well, to that, I would say that's even more admirable that he made this jump, that he left the team in the middle of a playoff, and then the next season he wasn't really that good. Imagine how down in the dumps he's going to feel. Let's go to Ben. How many games did we lose in a one-possession situation? Well, let's go down the list, okay? So this season, in one-possession games, we obviously won our first couple of games, and Ole Miss was technically a one-possession game. Now, was it truly a one-possession game? Probably not. Okay, Vanderbilt, that was a one-possession game. Was it truly a one-possession game? No, we were trailing a good bit in that game. Texas A&M, that scoreline was a little misleading because we were winning at halftime, but they blew our asses out. Alabama, was that truly a one-possession game? Probably so, but I mean, they were never not in control of that game. And then obviously we've won quite a few one-possession games. Clemson game, we were the better team. It was a close game. Florida was a game that you never really felt Florida was going to win, but we didn't play well offensively. Then obviously South Carolina wasn't really a one-possession game either. Arkansas was as close as it gets, as many of you know. Okay? And then Oklahoma was a true one-possession game. So, yeah, every game was close outside of A&M. That's what happens when you have a good defense. They keep games close. Yes, we play Ole Miss. We not only play at Ole Miss, we also play at Tennessee. Now, I do want to address something towards the end of this. All right. We have got to have a conversation about some of the Ole Miss fans using these Monty Kiffin lines towards Lane. Like, yeah, Monty would feel so bad that you did this. We're really going to start invoking people's dead parents? Come on, Ole Miss. Come on. You can't do this. You can't do this. Can't do this. And I'll leave it at that. I tweeted that out saying I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe people are saying this. Tagging Lane Kiffin saying, hey, what do you think Monty would think of this? Really? Really? You're going to do that? Leave that man's dad alone, bro. Yeah, I tweeted that out today as well. Deuce Gerald's getting some carries. Lane's done that. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of skill talent, but as you know, Carvis, he's got to rebuild this whole line. God, we got a lot of viewers in Little Rock. It is crazy. Love me some Little Rock. Got my stand-up start at the joint. It's now under a different name. Looney Bin, all of that. Love Little Rock. It might be your Ole Miss brothers. But no, you're right. I do have a friend that is in Oxford and works in the athletic department. So, yeah, you feel for him. You do. Oh, this is crazy, dude. So there's a lot of people. Ironically, Chris Beard is now the coach at Ole Miss. Look at this. This is crazy. So this was when Chris Beard left Texas Tech to go to Texas. And this was the response that he had. "10 security guards. Oh man, that's crazy. Is Silverfield a worse hire than Chad Morris? Yeah, based on optics, it really is. But is he going to be as bad as Chad Morris? I doubt it. It's nearly impossible. But it could happen in a 9-game SEC. Okay. So we do get a late night little shebang bang here from Lane Kiffin's Instagram. Okay. Trey Wallace. We talk a lot about Trey on here. He's good. So Lane shared, and I trust Trey. I don't think Trey is a guy that would make some fake here. The real Lane Kiffin. None of this is fair to the players. This is not a Lane Kiffin conundrum. This is a college football conundrum that we need some leadership to step up and change the rules. Okay. Yeah, Johnny, how do you feel about it? You live in Arkansas. Let us know. Let's go to Carvis. He says, I did not realize Texas Tech had so much money. To be honest, I didn't either. But, I mean, when you really think about it, there's just there's hundreds of thousands to millions of students that attend these institutions or are fans of these institutions growing up. If they grow up and become a billionaire, or their girlfriend is a billionaire, or their girlfriend went to school at the school and they date billionaires, which is what happened with Underwood, where the billionaires going to put their money? Well, they got to put it somewhere. Why not be a hero of a state school and do what you need to do? Logan, I'll be there too, man. We got some overtime football. Let's go, guys. Let's go, girls. I'm rolling up tonight. I'm feeling all right. Let it all hang out. Pierce says, I wish my girlfriend was a billionaire. Hell, I wish I had a girlfriend. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah, I've heard this as well. They that's what happened as well with like SMU and Arkansas. Arkansas really wanted SMU's coach because he's from Arkansas. But why would you leave SMU if they have that many millionaires? Why would you do that? Am I texting Kiffin? I'm not texting Kiffin. Oh, we got a Lane tweet? Oh my God. Turn me the up, dude. Turn me the Oh, dude. I feel like I'm about to freaking, you know what? The best feeling on the planet. Y'all know what that is, right? That's what it feels like. I'm about to read this tweet. Ah! God, dude, these tweets are going to hit like a lot of different things, just depending on if we win or lose. All right. Let's go to work, dude. Let's change that bio. Y'all want me to post the StreamYard link, the invite link? Y'all want to post it? Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see what he does. Got to shoot your shots, you know? We might probably get some Ole Miss fans in here. He did do it with tiger emojis. Yeah, let's watch this Peacock game. Why not? Let's chill. What if he popped up right here? Type Y for yes, type in for no if you want to do some play-by-play of this game. All right, let's do it. All right, so Broncos go down the field, they score. Okay. So let's see. How do you guys feel about this motivational speech from? Tell me if y'all think this is a guy that's going to win big at Arkansas.
And we're going to build something very, very special. And today is the start of that. So when I talk about being all in, boys, we're going to be freaking all in. And we're going to get after it. We're going to kick people's ass. We're going to do it the right way. And we're going to have success in every single thing we do. I'm just telling you, I'm so damn fired up to get to work with you guys. And we're going.
It's kind of crazy when you do that opening speech when 75% of those guys are not going to be there next year. Could you imagine if you were a senior and you were sitting in there and you just finished a 2-9 year and they're like, yeah, you got to sit in and listen to the new head coach. And we're just 2-9 and I am out of eligibility. Like I am needing to be applying for enterprise rental car. I do not need to be here. Why does he sound constipated? I don't know. He did actually sound a little constipated. All right, so here we go. We got Marcus Mariota. Play action. Please don't throw a pick. What a throw to Terry. So my dad and I were talking about this. If I were, and what y'all don't know is, even though Josh Payton and I have never talked before, we have already discussed me being the college football deputy commissioner through different lines of communication. Traylon Burks playing for Washington. He had a ridiculous catch earlier, apparently. There's JD5. I need Washington to lose out. So there's been a lot of discussion about the Commanders' new field. And I'd say their field, I say it's a new field. There have been so many people that have gotten hurt on that turf or that grass. At least it's still a grass field. If you're watching this game in the background, these are like authentic grass stains on their jerseys. Oh, I thought that was game. Let's go to a super. Man, you've been putting in some long hours lately. You were spot on earlier when you were talking about people with unique gifts and talents. Well said. Appreciate the shot. I appreciate the money you've donated. I don't have many partners, so a lot of what I get is through donations, Patreon, y'all's hard-earned money. So with y'all's hard-earned money, I'm going to work my ass off and put out big streams. Our 4th and 6. Broncos aren't going to blitz here. They have a good defensive line. There's no need to blitz. Okay, so they don't blitz. Mariota's in trouble. Oh, my God. What an INT to end it. Oh, boy. Oh, there's a flag. There's a flag. Let's see. Let's go to Anthony Decker. Carter, what position group walked out of the team meeting at Ole Miss? Oh, you super chatted too, Anthony. Here's what I'll do, Anthony. I don't want to release that because it's water under the bridge. And Lane, and I sent Lane an invite link to hop on here. I will send you, since you did super chat, I'll send you the full convo that I had with someone. Okay. just shoot me an email, powerhourlsu@gmail.com, and I'll send it just to you. Just to let you know I'm not just making this up. Okay. Let's go to here. I've just been happy not hearing Arkansas fans trash talk. When they start winning, they talk, man. Well, they've not won anything in a while. So I didn't see what the flag was for, but it's a first down. Flag was DPI. Interesting. That's what makes Mariota great. So him avoiding that sack kept that play up. All right, good. Third down. But yeah, some people have unique gifts and talents, and Lane is one of those guys. I don't have those. I have to work really hard. Not saying Lane doesn't have to work really hard, but he's just talented. Terry McLaurin. I think he was down though. They'll review it. I think he was down. So now you got to go for 2 on the win. You're 3-8. Oh, the referee had a frown on his face when he gave out that holding call. Connerly, the rookie out of Oregon. Let's see what it was. Oh, no. No. Oh, no. Let's see. Oh, that's not holding. I'm sorry, dude. That's not a flag, dude. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that's not holding. Ugh. I just don't think you could ever call holding unless it's just egregious. That wasn't egregious. I'm sorry. God, he got Debo on the sideline ball. Oh, God, ball don't lie. Ball don't lie. Ha, ha, ha. Crazy. Crazy. I'm for real, Anthony Decker. I'll send it to you. powerhourlsu@gmail.com. I don't want you to think I'm fronting. Riley Moss. Oh, man. Oh, man. Riley, dude. That is one of the baggiest undershirts that Debo has on. I don't get it, dude. I just simply do not get it. It's so unnecessary. And he's wearing a dry fit shirt. If they do score a touchdown, they need to go for 2 in the win. Okay. There's no way they run it again, huh? Ah. Do you really think you're getting on Patrick Surtain? The down to run that on is first. You really think you're getting past Patrick Surtain there? McLaurin out on 3rd and goal. Oh, I do not like this call already. I don't. Oh, Zach Ertz drops it? Oh, there's not a human being on the planet. You want more in that spot. There's not a human being on the planet you want more than Zach Ertz. He might have a shot at going into the Hall of Fame for making catches like that. Oh, man. He won a Super Bowl making catches like that. All right, 4th and goal. Yeah, timeout if you're Washington. You want me to play it? The tarmac? Trey Foster got a Ouachita Baptist Tiger. That's what it looks like there. The best rivalry in sports, baby, is a battle of the ravine. All right, here we go. 4th and goal. Oh, they brought everybody. Got him. Scary Terry. Now you've got to go for 2 in the dub, baby. Got to go for 2 in the dub. Yeah, you got to. Could be a penalty for delay a game, though. Him chunking the football 20 yards backwards. Oh, is that a pick, though? That's going to be discussed. Is that a pick? He's going to take another timeout. It doesn't make any sense to not call another timeout here. Yeah. Or if you're the Broncos, call a timeout. Yeah. Oh, you're taking Mason Taylor over Zach Ertz in that spot? Mm. Okay, so it's straight man-to-man here. They're bringing pressure again. Oh, they ran RB fast. They ran RB fast. Oh, and it got batted away by the Oklahoma Sooner, Nick Benito. God, that's going to help him out. He's trying to get some DPOY love. They ran RB fast. Oh, my God. They ran the most popular and goal play, 4th down, short yardage play in the sport. What a freaking play. So basically, the running back just leaks, and you had the man coverage indicator. Oh my God. Perfect play call. Perfect play call. That just sucks, dude. That's the Broncos season, though. They've had a magical season. One of their 2 losses was like a penalty on a blocked field goal that they had missed, but they have won every close game. Oh man, helps out both parties though. It really does. Washington keeps draft position and better draft position, and Denver has a better shot at the 1 seed, especially with the Colts losing today. Because the Colts own the tiebreaker. Oh man. Okay, so look, I could find a. So we just started running this play. Everybody runs this play. Let's see if the NFL has tweeted this out or not yet. Okay. You want to do some late night film study? Let's go. Broncos run this play too, ironically. Okay. So they ran the Chiefs version of this play. But basically, I'll just show you the play. I'm not going to look at the Chiefs version of running this. It's such a good play design. Oh, look, someone hopped in. Somebody hopped in off Twitter. They're probably going to come in and say a bunch of curse words. Look, let's see what they say. Y'all want me to bring them in? All right, so they ran RB fast. Okay. At least that's what I think this is called. All right, so the running back is just basically running into the flats. Okay. And what this doesn't show is the pre-snap indicator that the running back motioned over here next to Mariota. And so they have it lined up on the opposite hash. And Hufanga, the safety that's the furthest back, is having to guard that running back running full speed to the opposite side. Okay. Safety doesn't pick him up, and this is probably getting done. Okay. Now, what we don't know if this is complete, does this DB actually get over into the flat to make this play? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Ridiculous. Oh, well, someone hopped in and then they hopped out. Mariota with the gray hairs frying me. Well, he's our age, Pierce. We're old now. He's actually a little bit younger than me. All right, let's get to no, we're not going to sleep. We're staying up until the 3 p.m. press conference tomorrow. Don't doubt me. Okay. So this is via Tiger Droppings. That was also from Michael Cobble's breakdown of who all he saw at the facility. Charlie Weiss Jr., wide receiver coach George McDonald, tight end coach Joe Cox, strength and conditioning coach Nick Savage, general manager Bill Glasscock, senior associate AD for football ops Thaddeus Rivers, senior director of player personnel Mike Williams, offensive grad assistant Sawyer Jordan. There are so many people on the planet named Mike Williams. So many. But welcome, Mike, to Baton Rouge. Have to be up at 3:30 in the morning for what? What do you have to be up at 3:30 in the morning for? All right. Here's what I would do about it. Y'all want me to be really unfiltered about Ole Miss's playoff chances? Because honestly, I will tell you this. Okay. Part of why I want Lane to be able to coach in the playoff is I think I don't want a coach that's looking in the rear view. And I feel Lane is an overall indecisive person like myself. I could be wrong on that. Don't know him personally. But if you're indecisive, you don't want to be in a spot where you're like, yeah, I could have done this. I could have stayed here. I had a really good thing going. I want you to be all in on being with the LSU Tigers. Okay. So I do want to state, though, that I think it is pretty fair to have the conversation if Ole Miss deserves to be in the playoff or not. Okay. So you look here, the weak side of the football is Ole Miss's defense. They're not good. All right. So take a look at the teams that Ole Miss has gotten to play all season long. They played the worst offense. They played the second worst offense. They played the third worst offense. They played the fourth worst offense. They played the fifth worst offense. Okay. They played the sixth worst offense. In Mississippi State. They avoided Auburn. And then if we go by yards per play, they played the 7th worst offense in Georgia. Now, Georgia's offense is really good. And they had one diabolically bad game versus Georgia Tech this weekend. But you notice here, Ole Miss didn't have to go up against Diego Pavia. Ole Miss didn't have to go up against Joey Aguilar. Ole Miss didn't have to go up against Marcel Reed. Ole Miss didn't have to go up against Ahmad Hardy. Ole Miss avoided Arch Manning. Ole Miss avoided Ty Simpson. So, pretty much every team that's going to make the playoff outside of Oklahoma has a far better offense than a lot of the teams you see on the screen right now. So you're telling me that this defense for Ole Miss has a huge weakness, and they've lost both their OC and head coach? I don't know about that, y'all. I really don't know. Did they play Tulane and beat Tulane handily? Sure, yeah. And you give them credit for that. But they didn't have a Power 4 team that they played out of conference. And you mean to tell me that they barely beat Washington State off a bye? The committee has a choice to make. Now, if you're the committee, do you think Ole Miss is a better team than Vanderbilt right now? I would probably say no. Ole Miss, are they probably a better team than Texas right now? I would probably say no. I think both of those teams would be favored over Ole Miss if they played a game today. And Ole Miss didn't get to play either one of those teams. Now, here's the thing. They do only have one loss. But if I'm the committee, I'd say, look, they didn't play a Power 4 non-conference game. Washington State would be a non-Power 4 or would be a Power 5, but the conference disbanded. And Tulane is a very, very, very good non-P4, top 5 non-P4 program. But if you're LSU, yes, it would be hilarious. It would be funny. You would be able to laugh at Ole Miss fans in their face if the committee said, we don't want you in the playoff anymore. But do you really want that on Lane's conscience? Do you really want that? No. You do not want that. Okay? You do not want that on that man's state of mind. I'm just telling you. Because if they were to do that, Ole Miss loses a lot of money. And unless Lane is truly a ruthless human being, which I don't think that he is, I think he's got a soft spot in that heart of his, that would bother him. Okay? So I'm not being a negative Nancy. I'm not. I think they should get in, and I want them to get in. Okay? Now, last thing. In the next 5 or so minutes, I'm going to answer as many as we possibly can. If you super chat, we'll keep this going. I still stand by Lane should be allowed to coach a playoff. It's better for LSU that he doesn't, but in some ways, I think it is better for him that he does. there's going to be a lot of questions about the playoff. A lot. Yeah, that was a crazy. I don't. This is Alex sending me this. Scooter Harris was a New Orleans linebacker that played at Arkansas. Okay, let me see. Huh? This Lane Kiffin graphic is insane. Look at the full one. Let's go, dude. PHL meetup in Oxford? I can get down with that. I love Oxford's fun. How did everybody do on their fantasy matchups? Did you win? Did you lose? I'm checking mine. Let's see. I might have pulled off the rare 4-0 week. I think I did. Let's go. On to the next. Is Bryce Young suddenly good? Probably not, but they are 7-6, and he did play amazing today. That the Panthers trading Adam Thielen and him being a healthy scratch in Minnesota, I'm sure drives Justin Jefferson insane. Because that's his boy, but at the same time, it's like, damn. I feel really bad for Justin Jefferson. It's been a tough LSU year. It's been tough, dude. Carvis is down. I plan on going big for the Texas game next year. That's the one I'm really excited about. LSU, Texas, and Tiger Stadium. I am really excited about that. You don't like Well, then we're not going. Yeah, Golding's a guy. Yeah, they've lost a few guys today. I think they lost 2 total. Yeah, they were mad. And look, I'm never going to be mad at them for being mad. But I also don't totally forgot the Pels play tonight. It's where I am right now mentally with them. It's tough, dude. It's tough being a Pels fan in this economy. Saints lose today. Chris Olave had a chance to win the game. Liverpool wins today. So my day wasn't that bad. I did see it. It wasn't really anything crazy. I thought it was going to be like something like explosive. It wasn't. I think they did okay. Yeah. Pretty happy. Now it was the opposite of Maxwell. Theo was telling him to stay. Theo's more of a Vandy guy now, too. Tigers said what makes Lane's offenses so good. I uses formations really well. That's one very simplified way of explaining it. Our tight end play is about to get really good too. I do think though, Lane's gonna need to sit down with Trades Green and say, "Look, you are an elite receiver. You're one of the best red zone threats we have ever seen in the SEC. But you've got to become a more consistent, well-rounded player. It cannot be as hot and cold as you've been this year with the drops. Okay? If you want to maximize your NFL potential, even if you're just going to play a receiver in his offense, you've got to block better. Got to take it more seriously. So I think with this pedigree, you got to have those brutally honest conversations. Okay? So there you go. Dang, Landshark is turning on me. He is turning on me. That's going to be crazy. All right, y'all, that'll do it for me. This is our third live stream in the past, 9 days, over 3.5 hours. But the night is still young for your boy. I got a few more things I got to get into. I appreciate each and every one of our super chatters tonight. James, Zach, Jordan, Benny, Guitar George, the Low Life TJ, Shamor, DK, Cindy, Sibley, DK, TG, Anthony. Appreciate each and every one of you. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Tonight we are doing cheesy carrots. Let's go.